Welcome back. It's Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs. We've had a little bit of time to catch up on sleep now in a sleepless weekend that is the NFL draft, my favorite weekend of the NFL calendar. And it's an exciting time, dude. I'm just happy to be here talking rookies with you. I've been excited to talk about this draft fallout since it happened with you specifically, Jacob. I've given away, we've texted a little, so it kind of feels a little bit like cheating. And I wanted to save some of that for the show. I wanted to hear first reactions on the show. But I'm just pumped, man. It's rookie draft season. I have one rookie draft going right now in my home league. I was on the clock with 103. I made you guess who you thought I was going to draft. We'll talk about some of that on the show. I'm apparently back on the clock. My friend Kevin, you're on the clock, dude. You're on the clock, dude. Well, dude, I'm working, man. I got Beyond the Box Score here. I'll make the pick. In due time. Give me some time. Wait a couple hours, and you will see a pick out there. But you got to wait some time. You're just going to get snap picks at all times, you know? Some people want time. I want to see if we got any offers. And so there's lots to talk about, Jacob. But I'm excited, man. How are you? How was your draft weekend?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I just got off F50 Dynasty with Heath. And, yeah, there's just so much to talk about. On that show with him, I was like, Heath, good job keeping this on the rails, because so easily I felt like I could have gotten into these 10, 15, 20-minute conversations. I mean, I just put out a video on Omar Cooper Jr. that's over 30 minutes long.
Love that.
And I'm like, that's great. You know, I think having a detailed conversation about any of these players is meaningful and everything as we try to parse through these profiles. But at the same time, there's like so much to cover really right now. When you get out of the draft, you actually have the landing spots now. Things have changed dramatically. If you go look at our rankings before the draft, they're so much different now. And so we're going to get into that today. I'll give you my Dynasty rookie ranks. I did rank 70 players, Dan, 70 rookies.
It wouldn't be Beyond the Box Score if you didn't go 70 deep.
So I don't know if we'll go 70 deep today, but we're going to dig into updated post-draft rookie rankings for Dynasty rookie drafts. I know a lot of y'all are drafting right now, so I want to get to as much of that as possible. We're also going to cover our biggest fantasy football winners. We'll do a losers show on Thursday in terms of the players who have seen their value drop the most from the draft. So we're going to spend some time with the veterans as well, not just the rookies. And then at the end of the show, if we have any time, I don't want this to, turn into a 5-hour thing here, but I'm hoping to spend some time with every team in the AFC and look at their action or their inaction and see what that might be telling us, all the way down to like their UDFA signings and stuff like that. Where are teams adding depth at the positions that matter, and what does that say about the players at the top of their roster potentially? And so do the AFC version of that today, and then the NFC on Thursday's pod as we go through the players who did not see their value go up after the draft. So a lot to talk about today. I'm really excited for it all. And then also on Friday, I'm going to have Ryan Heath come on to help get into some season-long rankings. And we're going to start rolling out the positional season-long rankings shows starting on Friday and then carrying into next week, looking at running back, receiver, and breaking it down and start to look ahead to the season-long format here. I know that we've got some mock drafts going up on CBS Sports and everything. So starting to look ahead to not just the Dynasty Sicko stuff, but lots of content coming. Really, really looking forward to it all. Looking forward to moving out of the draft season, as fun as it's been to watch just ridiculous amounts of film. And I still have a ton of film to watch, like coming out of the draft, where I'm like, I need to watch more of this guy. I need to watch more of this guy. I need to catch up on him, Your guy, Marlon Klein, shout out Dan, had some really fun players that you called out before the draft.
What an absurd call that was. That
ended up getting drafted really high. So a lot to talk about today before we do leave the rookies and the NFL draft. But yeah, that's what's on the horizon for Beyond the Box Score people. That's what we're looking at today.
Guy had sub 50 catches. I feel like this was just a total bet on traits pick. And I saw those traits, and we'll see if it ends up being anything. But when you move like that, I'm looking for people who can actually translate to the NFL from a trade standpoint. We'll see what happens with Klein, but the early capital is really important there. So I think that's something to point out for sure. And we'll move forward with players like that. Because I think as we shape these ranks, Jacob, you'll see, and the listeners will see, we are going to be influenced by the draft capital, because that's just what the NFL is telling us. They're giving us a story. And I think a good debate happened over the weekend, a friendly, it got toxic debate happened with the consensus. I don't know if you saw all this, the consensus mock board stuff versus the NFL. Did you see any of this, Jacob?
Nope.
Oh, you did a good job of avoiding it. It was all over Twitter. I don't know how you.
I have not been online at all.
essentially it's this idea that like teams hate the consensus mock board. Arif created this. Arif Hassan created this years ago. But like apparently their consensus mock board has been just as good, if not slightly worse, than the NFL at predicting at drafting if you had just gone by it. But the point being, these players that the NFL drafts and tell us, and the players the NFL tells us are important to them, there's a reason they're important to them, because they have a role in mind for these players, and they're going to try to make that role happen. It may not happen for Klein or any of these players. They might not work out, but they have an idea in mind. So I think it's important for us to follow that and take the breadcrumbs and follow them. But I will say this before we get into any of it real quick, Jacob. Thank you to everybody here. We did a lot. Last week, we had a show every single day of the week. That was a lot of fun to do, but also different for us. And I really appreciate everyone who steps in, listens to every show, hits the like button, leaves comments. It really helps us drive the show. We're trying to drive forward. We're trying to build this show out in a certain way from scratch. And I really think we're going to hit our stride, Jacob, in July and August, to be honest. And I'm really excited to see that growth during that time. But right now we're laying the foundation. And I think that's really important too, when there's not as many people around at the time, to really lay that foundation and show what we can be as a podcast and as a team and as a show. So I'm excited about it. And I just want to thank everybody who's made that early part of the journey possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's hit it. Let's hit our stride right now. Fantasy football winners from the NFL draft. That's what we like to do, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Superlative season. Tyler Shuck. Right?
Ooh, that's where we're starting. I like it.
All off season long. Starting with the offensive line additions. Really, they've been building this out for a while. And then the Saints just hit. It seems like, you don't want to overreact to year one, but it seems like really hit kind of luckily or whatever on like a late round QB, which don't get that often, but they're able to slide him in to the situation where they've got the number one receiver. They've been, adding offensive line pieces. And now then this year, they're able to kind of like put it all together potentially, where they bring in a tight end that they're really excited about. They bring in a receiver that they're really excited about. And they're bringing in a running back in free agency. And now it's like, right, this looks like a really good offense on paper with Kellen Moore. They were able to, bring in this offensive minded head coach. And that was kind of like sort of random luck, I think, where like he went late in the cycle because his team went to the Super Bowl and everything. Yeah. And so like all of it's come together where like 2 or 3 years ago, the Saints team looked like it was going to be an albatross with the way that they were pushing the contracts up and everything. And now it's like Saints are pretty exciting, like Jordan Tyson is drafted to the Saints, and I'm like, that was the perfect spot for him, and it's like weird, but it really feels like it's a perfect spot for Tyson. I love Oscar Delp in New Orleans. I'm excited for all of them. So wanted to start with Shuck. I did my season-long rankings, man, and I'm like, Tyler Shuck or Patrick Mahomes? And I'm like, what the hell am I talking about right now? So yeah, I wanted to throw all that to you. I know that you're a big fan of Tyler Shuck. The season-long rankings is a whole other discussion. It's very hard to rank. I'm going to get into some of those with you at some point this week for sure. But what do you think about this one? Big winner, Tyler Shuck.
I love it, man. I'm on the Shuck train. I always have a little place in my heart for Tyler because the tweet dated all the way back to like February 3rd of last draft cycle. I said, I got a hot take that I'm brewing, and I don't know if I'm man enough to say it. And I did tweet it out, and I was like, I watched these guys last year's class. I was like, I think Tyler Shuck might be the best pure thrower of the football in that class. That included Cam Ward, and I ultimately ended up having him, I think, QB3 in the class. But when you watch that tape at Louisville, you're like, yeah, this is what works at the NFL level. It's not whatever I've seen from Shedeur Sanders or some of these guys that are being pushed up the board. And I think he's got the tools, and he showed it in year one. And then you factor that in also with the perfect pairing with Kellen Moore and what Kellen Moore can create. And then the idea of like, wait a second, Jordan Tyson's actually the perfect receiver for Kellen Moore. So now what does that mean for Tyler Shuck in the offense? And I love that you brought up ETN, because ETN is a dual threat player who's going to help him also in the passing game. And I feel like he's just going to help Kellen Moore actualize his offense more. So what I mean by that is when we spent a lot of time watching the Saints last year for the show, Jacob, I feel like every week you're like, watch this game. I think they were held back in a lot of ways by their running back. And I'm not a big believer in running back play meaning a lot, but it sometimes does. When you're trotting out the Devin Neals of the world, and even worse and beyond that, you're limited in what you can do, I think, from a schematic standpoint. ETN's going to open up all that. So the question with Shuck is, it's a deep quarterback position for fantasy. We know that. And Shuck's running upside isn't amazing, Jacob. So the question becomes like, can he evolve into this what we've seen at times work in the NFL, the Burrow prototype for fantasy, right? Like you really have to throw for a lot of yards and you have to throw a lot of touchdown passes. I think that's probably the route for him, with small amounts of rushing sprinkled in, but not a lot. I'm a bit skeptical. I'm just going to start with that, just because these are not the type of quarterbacks I typically invest in fantasy. I'm big on the rushing quarterbacks.
I think you're underrating the rushing. Yeah, I've got him right
Good.
behind.
I love that, because then I can get in on it.
I've got him right behind Mahomes, and then speaking of rushing, right ahead of Malik Willis and Kyler Murray. Quarterback super deep. So we'll get to that in more detail on Thursday and then beyond as we look forward to the 2026 season. But on Thursday, I'm going to ask Dan to help me work through some of the toughest players to rank. Okay. So we'll spend more time with that on Thursday's episode.
Incredible comment here from Wisco Dad 97. Dan has talked himself so far into this draft class for NYG. Deservedly says that I'm very worried for him when it all falls apart as usual. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, on that note, Cam Skadaboo, just hit it quickly. One of the biggest winners, maybe the biggest winner of fantasy draft season. Feels really, really good for our boy Skadaboo if he's healthy. I've got him ranked at RB20 currently for the 2026 season, and I think he'll move much higher than that if we feel good about his health. I think he'll probably just move up into the like Josh Jacobs range and Travis Etienne and those types of players, where he's like a borderline top 12 running back. Both quarterback and running back are really, really deep. So I think Thursday's discussion where we dig into some of the tough rankings will be really, really fun and illuminating, where it's like, man, late round QB is the way to go. And then running back, it feels like we've got a lot of profiles. Like with this draft is so weird where, people are kind of feeling the squeeze with the running back position in the rookie draft, feeling a little frustrated that a lot of the potential guys who could have contributed didn't land in good spots, whether that's Emmett Johnson or Mike Washington or whatever. But to me, that's like almost helped the rest of the running backs remain really fantasy relevant, where it's like basically every running back who was kind of on the line dodged a good running back. Good point. So we've got like a weird amount of running backs where it's like DeAndre Swift could be a monster for fantasy. Sure. David Montgomery could be a monster for fantasy, and no one's going to want them. They're going to be drafted really late. It's going to be really, really interesting redraft season, I think.
I can't wait to get into some of that stuff, and that's more 30,000 view, my favorite stuff. But it's going to be a weird year to the extent, Jacob, that I think I have to flip, and I've started to flip it last year, but my redraft strategy is going to have to really lean more running back heavy than it's ever leaned. And it's going to be really interesting because I don't love investing in running backs because the injuries upside, the injury factor, but I feel like that's where we're at, man. Who do we trust more, DeAndre Swift or some random guy we're propping up to the wide receiver 2 range that's going to not end up hitting like last year?
Right, for real. Yeah, no, I've got Swift at running back 22, but I think he's just as good of a bet as a lot of the running backs up in the top 15.
And a better bet than a lot of the receivers.
And let's just talk about this next guy. This is who I've ranked directly behind him currently for 2026 is Bashal Tootin. Another player we're really excited about. I think kind of fits the profile that you just mentioned, where it's like probably just feel better betting on Swift, but each of these look like the lead back in their backfield, but they do have dogs behind them in the form of Chris Rodriguez for Tootin and Kyle Monangai for Swift. On really good teams, that could run the ball effectively again. Tootin, I think, is clearly one of the biggest winners. Didn't really address the position at all. We'll spend more time in Jacksonville at the end of this podcast. They added a UDFA that's a decent guy. Like people expected Jamari Taylor to get drafted, but he didn't. And so, that's the only addition here. I feel really, really good about Tootin. Looking forward to 2026 and beyond. The coach speak out of Jacksonville has been encouraging as well, that they think that his role can really expand. So it looks really good. We'll see if Rodriguez cuts into that work. But both those guys really are just trending up and continue to be good buys, I think, for Dynasty.
For me, it's like the question that I debate is Tootin or Rodriguez. And I think the answer actually might just be yes, both. That's where I'm at with it, at least. Not only did they do everything you said, we believe in Liam Cohen. I thought the one pick they made that I love from their class was Emmanuel Brignone, just an absolute value steal there, who could immediately be like their best interior run blocker if he gets playing time. And as much crap as they got for the tight end they drafted in round 2, he is probably the best blocking tight end in this class. Again, more good news for Tootin and Chris Rodriguez.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Chat's asking for it. Got to give it to him, Bill. And also the chat says the Tyron Tracy maybe he's a big winner.
I agree on Tracy too. It's got to be a little slow to come back. In general, Tracy had better tape than people realized at the end of last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we liked his rookie film as well. But Bill Krosky-Merritt, they did add Katron Allen, who is a really good running back. Again, talking about dogs, he's good. So he kind of comes in and maybe fills that Chris Rodriguez role or something like that. They signed a UDFA that people really like as well. That's also been a dog in his collegiate career. We'll see how it translates to the pros for both of these guys. Not like fantastic athletes necessarily. But if we see a situation like last year where the offensive line is getting overwhelmed or Jaden Daniels gets hurt or whatever, where like they're not, it's obvious the defense is that they just need to key on the run. I think we might see Bill get beaten out by somebody like Katron Allen, who's better at just getting what's there. We saw him take over the backfield from Nicholas Singleton at Penn State, and maybe something similar could happen. So I don't want to get out of control here with the Bill hype, but I do have him just behind Tootin, Quinjon Judkins, and David Montgomery, and ahead of Jadarian Price for 2026 is where he falls in. Where I think that there's a lot of upside if things go well in Washington. But Katron Allen is lurking, and I also don't really have that much confidence that things are going to go well. But overall, dodged what could have been a lot of different, pieces coming in here and making this a worse outlook. Overall, looks pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Chase Brown just keeps winning.
Huge win for Chase Brown this class.
I've got him at running back 9, behind Amari Hampton, behind Devon Achane, ahead of Kenneth Walker, Jeremiah Love, Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. I would take Chase Brown over all those guys for PPR. Any PPR format.
I agree. I think you're spot on across the board there. It's just crazy how deep running back is, just naming through those guys being all ranked behind.
It's super deep. Yep, for sure.
I think Darren brings up a good one in the chat. I don't know if you thought about this, and I don't want to steal it if it's coming. Do you see that one, Darren 12? Are you going to talk about him, or could we talk about him for a quick second?
Let's take our first break. We've got a lot of winners to get back to, so we'll be right back after our first break.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you
are. Rashee Rice, is that what you had as the winner?
No.
Judkins.
Yeah,
we'll spend a little bit of time with Judkins too, for sure. Just want to keep it rolling with some of the kind of top running backs, and Judkins to me isn't that, but he could be if the Browns offense is better than I expect, but I doubt it. Javonte Williams just looks really, really good. I thought there was a real chance that they would add a Mike Washington type or something like that to the backfield, but it looks like it's just going to be him like 70% of the time again or whatever, just handling all that work on an offense that could be really good.
Exactly.
They are one of the teams I like to focus on when a team goes really leans into something specifically in the draft, and the Cowboys did that, where it's like all defense basically,
Yep.
To me, it's like if this defense is better, then that means maybe even more game scripts where it's more Javonte and not so much like playing from behind, all the air it out stuff where Javonte kind of gets phased out a little bit, is more of like a pass protector and stuff. To me, Javonte looks fantastic going into 2026. I don't know if he'll be able to handle the workload again, like that makes me a little bit nervous. Just because we haven't seen him do that very much throughout his career, even dating back to college. But I've got him running back 13, just behind Josh Jacobs, up in that range where it's like round 2, 3-ish range. Could just be a fantasy point print job, I really think.
That's the thing. It's really interesting. We spent so much time on last year's show talking about how we're re-ranking him, and he's like, do we want even 4 or 5 players over Javonte Williams on a weekly basis? The answer was no a lot of the time. He was one of the players we trusted on a week-to-week basis until the end when he got hurt. I don't know what's going to be different about that. If anything, I think it might be even better for him, to be honest, if their offensive line's healthier this year, which it could be. And like you said, if the game script also is better because their defense takes a step forward, he may end up ultimately being like an absolute steal value where he is that nobody wants to take because it's still Javonte Williams in people's minds.
Yeah, I think for Dynasty, he is for sure. The next guy is really similar. It's Josh Jacobs. I think both of these players, nobody wants Josh Jacobs at Dynasty. At least with Javonte, you see that he's 25 years old next to his name, but Jacobs is 28, which is so dead to Dynasty players. It's all the guy does is score points, and he's the engine of the offense. They didn't draft any receivers. They just pretty much only drafted defense. I'm just going to rail off 4 running backs here that I think are big winners in the same type of thought process here with all of them. It's Javonte, it's Josh Jacobs, it's Jadarian Price of the Seahawks, and then the Vikings backfield, where it's their team didn't really add any competition.
Wait a second.
And they went all in on defense. And so it just feels like or line. And so it just feels like they're going to want to try to be really run heavy. What's up?
I said, wait, you said they didn't add any competition? Any?
Oh, you talking about the Vikings backfield? Yeah, no, I'm excited about Claiborne.
Okay,
I think he's getting overlooked. I just was on FFT Dynasty with Heath, and it's like we didn't get to it, but for me, I think Claiborne's a better pick than Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen.
Same.
A lot of these guys that were higher pre-draft. Emmett Johnson, I would take Claiborne over him. Like maybe that feels weird.
That one I'm not as sure on because I love Emmett, but yes.
I just think we love Claiborne, right? Like I think he's really likely to have some window as a rookie where he gets some opportunities. If Aaron Jones stays healthy all season long, that's amazing. But if he goes down, I think Claiborne is going to be part of that backfield, even if it's just a change of pace with Jordan Mason.
And what think about it like this? They tried to find something like that at one point with Ty Chandler. And this is a much better version of what that can offer. And I think it's part of what Kevin O'Connell, the DNA of what he wants his offense to look like, involves a player like him, an explosive back who can make a touch, make a big play from anywhere on the field.
For sure. Yeah, I think he fits in really well there. I know he was a late pick, round 6, but
so was every running back in this freaking class. Like, I don't know if that Matt, like Colin Mununga was a round 7 pick. Like, it's going to happen sometimes at that position.
Yeah, I think it's once we get into the season, it really might not matter if he gets on the field and he starts making big plays. And then, like Jones has injury problems for sure and scares us with that. Jordan Mason could get hurt too, Jordan Mason runs with such a violent nature, like that he kind of does get banged up every year throughout the year. So I think there's a real shot that he gets on the field at some point. And just a side note, wouldn't him and Kyler Murray be like a hilarious and really fun backfield? I just like was envisioning those two, and I'm like, yeah, this is probably going to happen at some point. I think that would be really
incredible.
Fun. Okay, so Jacobs, I think to your point, Jacobs, Javonte, those they're just going to be cheap in drafts, and in some drafts they might even fall around 4 or something, where it's like teams already have a running back or 2 and they just don't feel the need to go there. They'd rather go with Tedero, McMillan, Luther Burden, or whatever. The exciting picks. And I don't know, man. Wouldn't surprise me if Josh Jacobs is just like one of the top 12 flex scorers in fantasy.
No, I'm going to have trouble not filling my flex with a running back this year, which I never want to do. My whole part of my strategy in fantasy is you always have to fill the flex with a receiver. And I play in PPR leagues. That's why. But I don't know if I can do it this year, man. Like, I'm going to be passing up on players like this for Tedero, McMillan, with the Bryce Youngs hit, like all these guys you mentioned who are fun, flashy players and great on tape, but may only get 4 targets in a game. That wouldn't shock me. But these guys are getting 1 million touches, Jacobs, and red zone touches.
And then, Jadarian Price. I don't know exactly what the role is going to be. I've actually been pretty low on Price for like dynasty purposes.
Yeah.
I worry about him as a short yardage rusher. I don't know if he's going to be playing on passing downs and everything, but they like went heavy on defense, which is so crazy. Like that defense is so scary.
I know.
And there's a real chance that he kicks the door down out the gate, right? And it's like Emmanuel Wilson, I think is a really solid player. He's a high success rate rusher. He can pass block. He can do short yardage stuff. So I could see how he would be the Charbonnet that takes a little bit of playing time away from Price. But also, I could see Price just separating himself from those backs, from Helani and Wilson, just be like, no, I'm the best player here by far. I'm going to be on the field.
Sharps was a late ACL tear. Like, I don't know if Sharps is coming back as fast as people think.
Right. No, I wasn't even considering him part of that equation.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the running backs I wanted to start with because they're kind of similar, where it's like the defensive stuff is really interesting to me, and the fact that there wasn't much else added to the backfield. I want to focus on some other passing game pieces and stuff, and then we'll get back with Junkins and some other running backs and stuff like that. So we talked about Jacobs, but also I think that the receivers are all winners for Green Bay too. I do think they're probably going to lean run heavy. That's what the signals seem to be. But at the same time, we just have this situation now where Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, I get Matthew Golden, Savion Williams. I don't exactly know how much the playing time is going to be split up among those 4. But it feels like Watson for sure is going to play like 70 to 80% of snaps at least, and is like probably going to have his role pretty safe. We've seen what it is. So like, as long as he's healthy, man, he's been so productive and just keeps getting better throughout his career. I really thought that they would bring in somebody, even if it was like a Malachi Fields or something, to like be the outside receiver. But they didn't. And so I'm really, really curious how this is going to go down. Do you have a read on it? Do you think it's just going to be Golden on the outside? That's where you've said in the past, you'd probably be placing your bets here with the Green Bay. Is that still where you're at?
Well, I mean, if I pick one of these 3, it's going to be Watson, I think. But I do think it's just good news for all of them, really. Reed has his role solidified. He just has to stay on the field. He's been injured a lot. Same with Watson, actually. They've both been injured a lot. Golden, yeah, you know where I've been at with Golden. I've been higher than consensus, and I'll continue to be. I'll use that model, and like his whatever it is, the bad target rate, the bad age breakout, whatever all that model says he was going to be a horrible prospect, and all the kind of confirmation bias that came along with it after his first season. To my advantage personally, Jacob, because just when I watched the tape, I'm like, oh, this guy wasn't bad. He just didn't get the ball targeted. And every time he did, he made plays. So to me, when I see those players, it's like, yes, people are confirmed in their minds. He was a bad prospect because of my model. And then he had bad first year. And it's like, well, he had a bad first year statistically, but it didn't check out with what I watched when I saw the tape. So that's just one of those bets that I'm just going to be very on board with. And I'll play it hard. Like I'll probably have a lot of Matthew Golden this year.
Next winners, similarly, I think that the Bears pass catchers are really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that they would add something, but what they added, I think, is just like a gadgety type of player, special teams type of player. So we're looking at Colson, Love, and Rome Odunze, Luther Burden. I think just maybe being like hyper concentrated target share on those three. And that has me really excited, especially if one of the receivers wins out over the other one. If we get it where it's like focused on Loveland and then one receiver, and then the other one doesn't get quite as much. That's how you push into the Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown's, Sam Laporta thing, where it's like Jameson Williams is kind of relevant, but really the targets are like 50% split among two players. And I think that that's possible because the addition of Sam Roush signals something else that's significant, I think, which is that Chicago is going to continue to use a lot of three tight end sets, which I think Roush is a decent pass catcher and everything. I think Cole Kmet's a decent pass catcher, but I don't think that they're as good as Rome Odunze, for instance. And so if it's Odunze coming off the field and Luther Burden staying on the field as the one receiver or vice versa, then that player has significantly less target competition. And that's just we've seen that when more tight ends are on the field, target rates go up, yardage efficiency goes up, and it's just great for fantasy. So I'm really, really, really excited about taking shots on this Bears offense. I'm curious how you're feeling, because I know at times you've been hesitant about Odunze and Burden's price, but now that we know we have a little more clarity on what the roles are going into 2026, how do you feel?
So I maybe have a different read on this than you do. But first I want to say you made an excellent point there, and we'll get into that in a moment. You made an excellent point there with regards to the exploration the NFL is having with more 12, 13 personnel, 2 and 3 tight ends. I think in Summer Sports did a great job of this, and I forgot who was on this study, but actually, the point of going to 13 personnel is to pass the football, not to run the football. It's to make it look like a run and then pass out of that, which I think the Bears want to do as well. But I'll say this, Jacob, while I'm so excited about adding Logan Jones in this draft, I think he's the perfect fit for what Ben Johnson wants at the center position. He was my favorite center. So I'm like super excited what that could be for their run game. I am skeptical of like how I'm going to be able to read this pass game out. I don't feel as defined with the roles as maybe you do. Like, I think this Roush pick could end up hurting Loveland in some ways, as annoying as that might be. I'm not sold on that. I hope they realize at the end of the year, like, no, Loveland has to be the focal point of our pass game. But I am a little bit weirded out at how it runs for Burden as well. Like, I'm very skeptical. Burden, I don't know if I'll be able to draft Burden, honestly, at his price. Because I just foresee some game plans in some games where it's like, we don't really need Burden for this type of game plan, depending on what it is. Because they're so multiple at this point. Like, what if they go to some heavy personnel game plans against certain type of defenses they think they could be an advantage from? And like, yeah, it could be Burden all the time, or it could be a mix of Burden on the outside one snap, Odunze another snap. And then, I don't know. It's just, I feel like these guys are priced really high, but we're still talking about a massively run-first team that just added a perfect center for their run-blocking scheme, and they have multiple tight ends they could play at any time.
Yeah, I still don't think that they're priced that high, to be honest.
Okay.
Especially relative to the upside. If the offense is really good, which Ben Johnson's offenses have been the best for fantasy, basically, over the last like 4 or 5 years, just in terms of consistency and top in production, those offenses have been so good.
Yeah.
And if it gets better, which I think it is entirely possible that it gets better in year 2 with all these young players, I think that there's just massive upside here. And I don't think that they're necessarily appropriately priced.
That's fair. That's the other side of the coin, and that could easily play out. They could become the super offense that they're definitely capable of.
Another offense that I expected to add a pass catcher, but kind of waited and didn't really. I mean, round 7, they added Deion Burks, is the Indianapolis Colts. And this is another offense that's well coached. So we'll see. It's going to probably come down to QB health. and offensive line play. But if one or both of those things check out, then we could have some really good numbers in the Colts offense as we saw early in the year last year.
True.
So I want to shout out Josh Downs always, and Alec Pierce, I think, are huge winners here. I really thought that they would bring in somebody, or that there was a chance that they bring in somebody who's more of a traditional like wide receiver, like target earner type, even like Cyrus Allen to the Chiefs, like for instance, like that kind of a player. But that's not really what they brought in. They brought in more of a cool tradesy player.
Right.
And so I think we're going to see an expansion of Alec Pierce's game. And I feel very confident that Josh Downs is about to go nuts. Maybe that's too strong of a take to say very confident, but after reading the coach speak and them just being flat out being like, yeah, we're going to play him outside. Like we've kept him in the slot, but we're going to play him outside and see what he can do, see how it goes from there. I think I know how it's going to go. I think he's going to kick ass. He's so good. Like he's so hard to cover. And I just think that we're on the precipice of like a real breakout here, as long as the offense doesn't fall apart. So that's what makes me the most nervous is Daniel Jones coming off the, Achilles. But as far as Josh Downs and the opportunity here, unless they're just completely lying about that, which I don't really know why they would be lying about that at this point in the offseason. It's not like you're like misleading your next opponent or something. Then I think we're just about to see a really talented young player get the biggest opportunity of his career, and I think he's going to make the most of it.
I love that. I mean, I love Josh Downs, and he for sure can win on both the inside and outside. Go watch early Drake May tape at UNC. You'll see one of the best players on the team, on the field against any team they played is Josh Downs week after week after week. He's that good. I still have reservations from a fantasy standpoint because I still think that's a team that wants to be run first. I still think that's a team that wants to be a little bit gimmicky at times in their pass game. Fullback league with the kid from Penn State that I'm for some reason blanking his name on right now, Warren, the fullback league with Warren, just those types of targets in the passing game. It's not Burrow. It's not a Bengals type offense where they're just kind of letting Josh Downs win a lot of routes and giving him opportunities, but we'll see. He may be so good that they're like, we have to change our offense to get this guy the football. He's open every snap.
That's the thing is like, I think Pierce's role is going to expand. And I think that he can do some of that, but if it doesn't really change that much, if he's kind of just like capped out because of the nature of his role as a downfield guy, Alec Pierce, if he's kind of capped out at like a 22% target share as like the very tippy top, then a lot of that could go to Downs and Warren. Right. And to me, at this point in their career, Downs is such a more consistent and better route winner and someone who can present targets consistently, open targets against different types of coverages than Warren. Warren is good relative to tight ends at presenting an open target, but Josh Downs is like really good relative to receivers. That's a whole different ballgame. Like he can consistently get open against different types of coverage. He's shown that in college and as a pro. The offenses don't run through tight ends. That's really rare. Like Brock Bowers, like that type of tight end, sure. I don't think that's what we have with Warren. I think Warren is really good. And they'll probably run screens and stuff like that to him. But in terms of like who's winning on third downs, who's winning against man coverage, who's winning in like high leverage situations, where's the quarterback's eyes going? I think it's Josh Downs. I think that makes so much sense to me. And I just feel like he's way, way, way too cheap. He's been too cheap all summer. And the fact that they didn't add anything to the receiver room makes me feel some confidence that they actually are going to do this, like Josh Downs outside, real receiver stuff. And that's just really exciting.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny any of that. I like Downs a lot. So
Isaiah Likely, our next biggest winner here. I thought there was a decent chance that they would add something. They were linked to Jordan Tyson and stuff.
Sure.
I think we come out of the draft feeling pretty good that he's the second target. I mean, maybe Darnell Mooney is more involved than we expect. You think somebody's going to get more targets than Likely on this team other than Neighbors?
I'm very skeptical of Likely, even though I like him a lot for like the big play potential. I just don't. This offense has become so multiple with the decision to sign Likely, to draft a player like Malachi Fields. Like in my mind, I look at Fields and I'm like, what if they really just view him as a power slot? Because if you use him as a power slot, even though that's we assume Likely has been brought into play, you have such an advantage from a run blocking standpoint with Malachi Fields. To me, just from watching him a lot more now since the Giants drafted him, might be the best blocking receiver in this class and might have the upside to be the best blocking receiver in this class at 6'4".
You coming around on Malachi Fields?
for overall player, yeah, fantasy, I still remain a little bit skeptical. But
I'm just glad because you were upset. It felt like when they took him that you
I wanted Hurst.
Ted Hurst.
I wanted Ted Hurst.
Yeah, but Malachi Fields is really good. Like he's actually a really good football player. I think he can help you guys.
I think he can help us a lot, and I think he could. There's a lot that I like about his receiving profile too, but I just wonder if they're thinking about him as an insert blocker and like in that power slot role, and then are they going to like interchange it with Likely and he'll be some snaps? Ultimately, I'm not sure this offense will have a big number two, like an obvious number 2 target outside of Neighbors. So I think Likely's fine to be a winner, but if you're betting on Likely, you should be confident that you're betting on the Giants offense to take a step forward.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, okay. I wanted to get a temperature check here because I've been a little bit nervous on betting on the ancillary pieces for the Giants for that reason. You feel like the Fields pick maybe affects him, and I think that could make some sense. It's really rare that we see a receiver like him be in the slot, but I think that it could work. He moves better than you would expect for somebody.
He did some of it Virginia too, by the way, and that's what has intrigued me. I saw a little bit when I went back and watched the Virginia stuff. Also, I just think in general with this offense, it's not necessarily going to be like an obvious number 2 target. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Because also, if you think about it, Mooney on the outside is a winner. And Jackson Dart had a lot of opportunities. And then let's not forget Theo Johnson. Like Dart and him have a rapport, and he went to Theo a lot last year, and he can block and he has the frame, so he'll be on the field.
All right, man. The tight end position is really rough after the top guys. Yeah. All right, Terry McLaurin, I think, stands to be a winner here. I really, really like Antonio Williams. He's maybe the biggest winner of any rookie. I guess you could say Jadarian Price. But Antonio Williams, man, I really liked him going to the process. I watched 4 games on him, but I was like, there's such a high probability he's going to end up in a split role somewhere where he's barely playing. And that still could happen. They could sign Juwan Jennings. They could sign Stephon Diggs. They could get Brandon Ayuk. There's plenty of ways in which he's not in the role that he's in right now. Who I do feel good about is McLaurin. Antonio Williams is good. He's better than what they had, but they could have added Mekhi Lemon. They could have added a lot of players that would have been like big target earners. And instead, it feels like McLaurin's poised for like probably the biggest role that he's ever had. So feeling pretty good about him. Here we go.
I'm just to add something real quick. I've been on Terry this entire draft season. We've done a bunch of mocks with Jamie. I think I've drafted him in every single one. I liked him before this draft. I'd like him even more after. He's an easy value this year in fantasy, I think. I
just love jumping from McLaurin to Isaac Tesla, our next biggest winner beyond the box score brains here. Feels pretty good. Yeah, they added I think more of like a Khalif Raymond replacement is how you could think of Kendrick Law, the receiver they drafted.
Yeah.
So they've talked about Tesla and wanting to expand his role, thinking that he deserves it after year 1, that he kind of reminds me of Tootin, where they like brought him in to do specific things and they're like, prove to us that you can do this, you can be a good pro. And that's where we're at now, is like going into the second year of this development and asking him to do more. So I'm really curious to see what that looks like. Ultimately, there's probably not enough targets for this guy to be fantasy relevant, but the fact that he's not buried after year 1 feels good. Pat Bryant, for instance, is somebody I felt really good about. Thought he played really well in year 1, but it's like, how the hell does he get on the field right now? I don't know. Maybe he just beats out Troy Franklin and those guys, or like Kyle Williams, I freaking love to death. But if they get AJ Brown or whatever, like if they signed Romeo Dobbs, like maybe he gets on the field in Stephon Diggs role. Don't really know.
Right.
With Tesla, it's like, I think he's just pretty clearly their third receiver, and we'll see how much they actually go to 3 receivers. They might use a lot of big formations, but it feels good to me that they didn't add anything, because he was a very speculative player. Even though they invested heavily in him, it's like he's very much a weird skill set. There's not a lot of players like him. So it's like, is he just going to be a bit player? Is he just going to be an end zone catch, big target guy? Or is he somebody you'll actually give more receiver opportunities to? I thought watching his film at Arkansas, even though it was very limited flashes, that he could really actually run routes. He just didn't get to do it very much, but he had the movement skills to do it. And then when I watched him in the preseason, I thought he looked so good running different types of routes. I was so impressed with the movement skills, the attention to detail on his routes. And so I think the fact that they've like kind of left the light on for him to maybe turn into more as his career goes forward feels really good. So that's kind of what I'm going to hit on here, is some deeper players for like dynasty sickos and stuff. The next one is Ryan Flournoy, freaking phenomenal athlete that has kind of had the Tesla track, except he didn't have the draft capital. But he slowly worked his way from like preseason hero into like, now the team really loves me and like is putting me on the field and giving me opportunities. And the Dallas Cowboys were linked to a lot of potential, they could have drafted Mekhi Lemon, they could have drafted a running back, they could have drafted tight end. They didn't really draft anything other than defensive line. So Florida looks like he's just penciled in as a third receiver in a really high-powered offense. And if something happens to Pickens or CeeDee Lamb or whatever, then he's actually kind of relevant for fantasy, like we saw at times last year. So another just deep name to know.
Love both of these calls. I like the Florida call even more so. Tesla, I think, is just an awesome player at the catch point too. One thing you didn't mention, I know you believe it, but you didn't mention it. That's what has had me most excited about his rookie tape. But the Florida one's really interesting because like last year he played awesome. And then obviously Lamb came back from the injury and it was like, all right, the role's a little different, but he looked great out there.
Yep. Jack Besh, Raiders didn't draft receivers. I don't understand. Like we're going to go team
pass on Surratt that many times.
Yeah. We're going to go team by team and look at what these teams did. They had a bizarre draft. It feels like they're just going to try to run the ball as much as possible. I don't really know, but Besh
looks Gente as a receiver.
Besh to me looks like he legitimately could be the second highest target earner on this team behind Bowers at this point, which is interesting. They drafted this guy in round 2 last year.
Right.
Legitimate draft capital for Jack Besh.
Sure.
So keep an eye on him. At times last year, he looked like a decent player. It was just kind of a weird role that they had him in. So different coaching staff.
I'll look it up in a second, but I can't remember. When they hired Kubiak this offseason, did they also clean out GM and redo that aspect of their front office, or is it the same GM who inherited Kubiak?
I think the same, but I don't know.
I'll look that up because that would change my opinion on Beck massively. If it's a new GM, I'm not as excited about Beck. If it's a last GM still, I'm way more excited.
I do not know. What I do know is my Mitchell Evans shares are safe. I was really worried. I was really worried that Kenyon Sadiq was going to get in the way of that.
Okay.
But shout out Cokeheads. We dodged several bullets here. The only addition really is Chris Brazel, who I don't think is really that relevant when it comes to these two players and the types of role overlap that we're looking at here. So Jalen Coker, really, really, really good player. We saw that in the Rams game in the playoffs. Maybe we can see that expanded here in, I think, his third season. So like maybe it's kind of like Josh Downs where he gets more and more opportunities. We'll see if he gets to play on the outside. I think that he can. Mitchell Evans is just a really good player. And he's another year removed from the ACL. And I wonder if he steps into a large role here in year 2 for the Panthers. That's their tight end. I think he could just be their starting tight end. And then they have other guys to be like the off the line tight ends who move around a little bit more. He's not only a good blocker, but it legitimately has some receiving upside. Probably not going to matter this year unless you're in deep leagues. But the fact that he has now the opportunity to actually just be the full-time starting tight end is pretty encouraging. So we'll see what the role actually is. Last one.
By the way, it is John Spytek, still the Raiders GM, so same GM.
Nice. Last one before we hit our break. I just want to give you a chance to rant and rave about this Chargers team, how excited you are. I feel really good about it. I thought there's a chance that they could have maybe added a running back at some point this offseason. They were linked to Devon Achane and stuff like that. Didn't get that. Instead, feel pretty good about like this offense being kind of concentrated on just a few players. And I really love the Brendan Thompson addition. I think that opens up space. I think, you know, obviously like Mike was super excited about that one. And I think that's because he wants space in this offense. Amari Hampton wants space. He wants space for him in this offense. But it was really, really congested last year. So we didn't really get to see a full glimpse of what he could be. But man, as I look forward to this Chargers offense, if it's healthy, I think we're going to be seeing 150 plus yard games from Hampton here and there. I just feel really, really good about them heading into the season. I've
already taken out 6 mortgages to cover my futures picks on the chart. No, I'm just joking. My futures Chargers bets, but I will be making some picks there. I'm all in on this team for fantasy. I'm all in this team in general. I think they're going to make a run this year, potentially the Super Bowl. I don't care how crazy it sounds. Oh, Justin Herbert stuck in the playoffs. All right, let's see. That was Matthew Stafford's apparent narrative until it was. That's what everyone said about Stafford. He can't win until he went to the Rams. We'll see. We got Slater coming back at left tackle. We got Joe Alt coming back fully healthy. We have Jake Slaughter, who they drafted out of Florida, who I love that fit for what they want to do at center on the offensive line. He may play guard. I'm not sure. I think he's going to play center, though. This offensive line is going to take a huge jump. They have Mike McDaniel. They have Brendan Thompson to open up space. They have Trey Harris. They have everything you could want, man. This offense is loaded with Justin Herbert. I just going to buy on every single piece of this offense. and laugh to the bank like we did with the Cowboys last year. No, but that's what happened with the Cowboys, right? We bought, and then we laughed to the bank because we predicted it would be a great offense, and it was. Now, the one thing missing for that equation is the Cowboys had a bad defense that led to good game script. The Chargers don't have that. That's unfortunate for fantasy, but I just think they might be so efficient it might not matter.
Yeah. All right, we're going to hit our second break. We are way over our time limit already.
Yeah.
Shout out to our producers here for bearing with us because we have even more fantasy winners to get to. But where else are you getting this? What shows are you watching where they cover 30 fantasy winners? Only here beyond the box score. We'll cover those when we get back. We'll cover 70 rookies. And yeah, that should be fun. See you soon.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman. New season now streaming.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, you need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now. When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
JJ, we appreciate your time breaking it down.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With the plays you missed
What a finish at the final round of play.
and analysis to give you an edge.
All we need is 20 points.
I was shaking in my boots.
Texas, Ohio State, who wins this game?
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
All right. I've got 5 more speculative backfield winners here who are probably going to be like outside of the top 20 in running back rankings. I want to get a temperature gauge on from you. We'll just start off with Tony Pollard. What is Dead May Never Die? What do you think? How are you feeling about Singleton? I know you're sort of intrigued by him. How do you think he fits into this backfield? To me, it's just as a backup. What they've talked about him is that he's a bigger bodied guy. And so they feel good about mixing that in with 2 smaller backs. And they're like, Andy can catch, he's a decent receiver. So we'll see. I've been digging into the coach speak a lot, and I didn't get like any great vibes where it felt like they thought their 5th round running back pick here was going to be a significant part of the backfield in 2026.
I think he could earn the passing downs role. I wouldn't surprise me. I felt like from the running backs I watched, he was the best pass protector in the class. Some of those reps were unreal. I thought he was a natural receiver as well. So we'll see. I mean, I think if they're looking for a bigger body type to help him pass pro with a young quarterback like Cam Ward, it wouldn't surprise me if he becomes that guy on 3rd downs, like over Tajay Spears and over Pollard. But early down work, I'm with you. It's probably Pollard who's going to look the best in this offense. But I'm thinking back like to all the Dable years with the Giants, and now Dable's obviously with the Titans. He never really had a back like Pollard or like Spears. And maybe that's just how it went out. I mean, like maybe you could say like Singletary, but they're just different backs to me. Pollard's so much more explosive. So I wonder like how he envisions this offense moving forward. It's one of those that I'm going to be following closely in camp. And I want to see like does Spears play more than people think? Because I honestly, coming out of college, I thought Spears was a better prospect than Pollard.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, that's the thing. Is just like this easily could have been. It easily could have been the Jeremiah Love spot,
right,
or somebody else, and instead they wait until round 5.
True.
And we don't really even know if there's going to be a role for Singleton. So Pollard appears as if he again has some value, and the offense could be a lot better this year. So maybe he like is sneakily this year's DeAndre Swift type of thing. I don't think they'll be as good as the Bears, but I think that's really interesting because he's completely free in basically any format, even season-long leagues. I think he'll just get grouped in with like Ramondre Stevenson and players like that. And maybe that's right, but I think that there's a chance that he actually does. I mean, we've seen him just kind of sneakily be the workhorse and be like the heart of the offense and stuff like that, where the coaching staff really loves him. So we'll see what it looks like this year, different coaching staff and everything. But wanted to bring him up. Like, what do you think about him or Chuba Hubbard? I think people are definitively drafting Hubbard ahead of Pollard, but me, I'm Jonathan Brooks pilled like big time, right? So I'm expecting him to take that work. What do you think about? How do you look at those 2 backfields? Which one would you be drafting first? For me, it would be Brooks. But what do you think about Pollard and Hubbard?
It's Hubbard for me. I think.
Okay.
I think they just trust him more. And my problem, like the one thing with Tennessee, my problem is I don't love what they did this offseason and the last offseason combined on the offensive line. I thought, look, if you looked at the games last year and you listened around like what happened, like around the time of them firing Callahan and all that, a lot of it was just due to really bad offensive line play across the board throughout the year. Latham took time and isn't really fully there. I'm not sure. Dan Moore was just a horrible signing in free agency by them to play left tackle, just like a egregiously bad signing. Maybe he gets better. And then they just didn't add anyone in this draft or this offseason. They added Austin Schlottman, from the Giants, like a backup center who might start for them. So like we remember last year, we were really high on the Raiders offense because like with Genty and Bowers, and we kind of said like, but Vegas projects them to score like the third fewest points. Like not all these offenses are going to work. So I think I'm more excited about the Panthers offense than the Titans, even though it seems ridiculous on paper, just because I am worried about the Titans offensive line.
I'm excited about the Panthers, especially when it comes to the running backs. Dave Canales has had really good fantasy running backs. And I think if Jonathan Brooks can get back and be healthy, which his timeline he should be back and healthy this year. I think he's just basically the best value at running back. We'll see how it goes, but I'm just taking him all day, every day. Such an easy pick. I think there's so much upside here. So he's
so many injuries with him though. It's the only problem.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of like, can he stay on the field? In the sense of like, does he still have that same level of burst and athleticism that made him the prospect he was after multiple devastating injuries?
Yeah. We'll see. He's very, very, very cheap though. And the fact that they didn't add into the backfield gives me some hope that, he is trending in the right direction. Because if not, then if he's not able to return, if they're like feeling questioned about his return.
Yeah, they would have drafted. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I feel like they would have Trevor Etienne and Chuba Hubbard as your backfield after you let Rico Dowdle walk like that. I don't know. That doesn't feel
I'm a Trevor Etienne guy. I just want to make that clear. I like Trevor a lot.
If you're just like, yeah, we're going to be a playoff team and this is our backfield, it's like, well, hope that they don't get hurt because then what? Is Trevor Etienne going to be your full-time running back? Like,
true.
So I think that indicates some belief in Brooks that they did not address the position at all. So got him as a winner. Quinshon Judkins, brought it by the chat earlier. I definitely think is a winner. They went defense. They went offensive line. I feel like they're going to be really trying to run the ball. Maybe we see some Taylon Green, which could help to have the additional running threat there. I think it definitely helped Mike Washington at times last year with the way the defenses had to play against Taylon Green and the optionality that they had presented with that backfield. Pretty into Judkins. They didn't really add anything else at the running back position. So, I don't know if I want to say I'm pretty into Judkins. I have him at running back 24 behind Tootin, so I'm probably going to be pretty low on him relative to consensus, but I think overall it's been a good offseason for him. David Montgomery, really good offseason for him. Another team that really addressed their offensive line and could be much, much better at running the ball. True. And so that would be a first for Houston in a while. I feel like maybe Woody Marks just takes a lot of work on passing downs or something. And so Montgomery doesn't matter really for fantasy. But I think there's a decent chance that he's just kind of the clear starter and gets quite a bit of work. So I've got him right behind Judkins, right ahead of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, ahead of Jonathan Brooks, ahead of this next guy who I'm really
having him even higher, by the way, much higher.
Wow. Okay.
I love Montgomery. I love the fit. I think they're going to use him more in passing. I think they're going to use him all in the red zone. And I love the Kalen Rutledge add to that offensive line.
I feel good about it. I just don't think that who are you pushing him ahead of? Travion Henderson, DeAndre Swift, Tootin are the players ahead of him.
Not Swift, but definitely ahead of Henderson.
There's so much more upside with Henderson.
I have no interest in buying into that upside on the Patriots. I mean, it's there, but it's also easily like it's the Patriots. We don't play guys that much. You think we're going to play them? We're just not playing them.
Yeah.
We'll see.
The next guy is Rico Dowdle. So I've got Dowdle behind him, and I actually feel really good about Dowdle. So I think I'm just high on I think I'm high on Montgomery, but there's just so many options at running back.
It's crazy how deep it is.
Yes, I have Rico Dowdle at 28, running back 28, and I feel good about Rico Dowdle.
I love Rico, so I'm on board with that too.
I think that the Steelers look really mean, man. Like just what they've done up front. We'll talk about their team more specifically in the podcast. I think that this is shaping up really nicely for Dowdle and Jaylen Warren, but they've been ranting and raving. Mike McCarthy's been ranting and raving about Dowdle and what he could do, even on passing downs and stuff like that. So I'm feeling TBD.
I'm TBD here. I think for me, as crazy as it sounds, it depends entirely on if Rodgers comes back or not. If it's a combo of Aller and the kid from Will Howard, I'm completely out on every piece of this offense, and I just won't draft anything. I don't do that. I don't draft offenses with that kind of quarterback play. I just know what happens.
That's
fantasy.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. That's our last winner. We are finally ready to get to these rookie ranks. Are you excited, Dan?
Oh, yeah. Let's see them.
Okay. I'll get those up on the screen. So I'm going to start with Superflex and tight end premium league. So that's the most common, I think, for sicko players. I've been informed that that's not actually the most common way to play Dynasty.
What? How is it not?
Because not all Dynasty leagues started last year.
I feel like the people who play Dynasty are sickos. In turn, sickos want Superflex and don't even consider any other option. But I guess I'm wrong. It's fine.
I think it's more the tight end premium aspect of it. Maybe isn't quite as popular.
That actually, I don't have any tight end premium, so I think that might be true.
I play almost exclusively tight end premium. It just makes it easier for me to be like all on the same page with my leagues there.
No wonder you love tight end so much.
Yep. I'll give you those rankings first. So Superflex, tight end premium, and then we will go look at Superflex, no tight end premium, and what would change. Okay. And then look at no Superflex or tight end premium and what would change. And I also want to categorize these players because I think that's really important with this year's class. So it's like these players are clearly long-term stashes, or these are the players who I think have a path to potentially contributing in year one. Okay. So I want to give you all of that. I'll also give you some tier breaks I think that are within the class and kind of get your opinion on that. So for Superflex tight end premium, I've got Jeremiah Love 1, Mendoza 2, Carnell Tate 3, Jordan Tyson 4, Mekhi Lemon 5, and that's our first tier break. I think that it's honestly I think that there's very little difference between the top 3 receivers. I know that's different than my opinion a week ago. I'm coming around on Lemon more and more. The coach speak and the GM, both were really encouraging in the way that they see Lemon, which is good. It's exactly how I see him. When I read what they emphasized, it was the exact things that you see on film that made us so excited for Lemon. So I'm feeling better about him. I still would take Tate and Tyson ahead of him, but I think that there's a chance that he could outscore either of them. I'm curious where you've landed. Is Tyson your wide receiver 1 for Dynasty?
I just had a decision to make. I was 103 in Dynasty. It went Mendoza Love, or Love Mendoza, and then I took Tyson. Yeah, he's clearly my wide receiver 1 just because I look at it actually, I debate Lemon as wide receiver 2. I know Tate has the draft capital, but it just scares me a little bit. His profile scared me in general, and it just scares me a little bit to rely on Cam Ward in that regard. Yes, Cam Ward has a fun, explosive arm, but also Cam Ward had issues last year. Deep accuracy wasn't great at Miami, and it wasn't great last year. So now intermediate should be great with him and Tate, so I don't want to rule him out. The interesting thing I thought about with your first tier, and this was mentioned by BTTH Pod, he says, I don't even really like Mendoza at 102, even if it's super flex. I wonder with Mendoza, I don't know if I guess it's super flex. It's so dependent on what your roster's at, but I don't love Mendoza either. I feel like he's a little bit overhyped for Dynasty because it's just the assumption that, he's the clear cut number 1. We never really debated it during the draft cycle, but he doesn't have the most fantasy friendly profile to me.
Do you want to expand on that?
I just don't necessarily see his rushing translating to the NFL level. It worked at college. I don't necessarily see him translating outside the Big Ten. And then as far as the rest of it goes, we're now relying on him to just become a super efficient passer, because otherwise in fantasy, you need to be that to be basically any kind of to be even on the range of back end QB1, you need to be super efficient if you're not going to run a lot.
Why don't you think his rushing can translate?
I just don't personally feel like he's the athlete that they look like on the Big Ten level. I could be wrong about that though. Did he test at all, Mendoza? I don't think so, right? From that standpoint.
I guess I just don't feel like you have to be some phenomenal athlete to pile up rushing yards. I mean, Mahomes isn't a good testing athlete.
True.
And had crazy amounts of fantasy production as a rusher last year. And to me, it's more about, will you run?
Yeah.
And do you have a good feel for space? And I think that he has both
of
those.
He has those things. Okay. I take it back. You sold me on that.
So that's, I don't know. I've heard Ryan Heath say this too. My buddy Ryan, will categorize him as not a rusher. And I'm I don't know why. He didn't have a ton of rushing at Indiana because, it was a really run heavy team that didn't drop back all that much. But on a per dropback basis, his scramble rates and stuff like that were high. They're in a range of where it's that's high enough. That could be, it's basically where Mahomes was in college, for example. So that's why I have Mendoza at 2. If you don't need a quarterback, then sure, go ahead and bump these receivers ahead of him because they're awesome. But I do think, just all things equal, I I feel really good about just taking the number 1 pick at quarterback, who I think is a good player and is paired up with an awesome offensive coordinator, paired up with Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. I don't want to spend too much time like overcomplicating it. And I think it takes a lot of hubris to like pass on that for a receiver. I like these receivers, but it's not like any of them are perfect profiles.
Yeah, and you know what? That's true. It's just not a good enough class to consider it. That's fair.
So there would be a tier break after Lemon for me, even though I do love Concepcion. So the next tier is Concepcion, Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq. This seems really low for tight end premium, but that's just where I'm at. I don't know exactly what the role is going to be like for Sadiq. And Ty Simpson is the end of this tier, which I don't really feel that much confidence about. If you want to include Jadarian Price in this tier, I think that makes sense. I mean, I am nervous about Price for a number of reasons. You can check out his profile on Beyond the Box Score if you want to dig into the historical data on this type of prospect. It's a very thin line that we have to walk with Price for this to work out, and it could, the opportunity seems like it's going to be there. But I just don't feel great like pushing him ahead of top 20 pick at tight end, round 1 receivers who I liked the film and the data on, and a top 20 pick at quarterback. I think that's pretty risky. Unless you like have to take that risk, I wouldn't be doing it personally. So I do have Price and Antonio Williams in a tier of their own below the group of 4 that I just gave you, where it's like, I liked the film, and there are some compelling data points, and the role seems like it will be good in year 1. And so I'm fine taking a shot on them. In a weird class like this, they are in round 1. And if you want to push them ahead of Sadiq or Simpson or whatever, again, this class is so much about what you need. And so if you want to take a shot on a player who might help you this year, then sure. But I do see them as not quite as good at prospect profiles as, for instance, the 13th overall pick at QB who goes to Sean McVay's offense and Puka Nakua's offense, or Kenyon Sadiq who gets picked where he does. That's just kind of for tight end premium. That's kind of where I'm at with these profiles.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd be very mixed in this range. I agree with you on Simpson. I'm probably a little higher on Price, and then I have my tight end 1 wouldn't even be Sadiq, but he would be up probably in the 8 range.
Yeah. Such a crazy class. All right. Well, it's about to get crazier. Are you ready to see who's at 12?
Yeah, that wasn't my tight end 1. I do love the landing spot.
Eli Raridan, my tight end 2 for this class, New England Patriots. This is definitely a wait and see pick. You don't, by the way, have to take him anywhere near 12th overall for rookie drafts. So that's something that's important to understand as well, is that you don't have to adhere to these ranks.
Yeah.
Use these ranks, compare them to your draft and ADP and everything, where you expect these players to go. And then decide for yourself how aggressive you want to be if you want to reach on these players, because you might be able to get, Chris Bell and Raridan. Whereas if you just take Raridan at 12 over Chris Bell, then you probably don't get both, So Raridan, yeah, he's going probably in the 3rd round, even in tight end premium drafts. So for real, like, put some thought into how you balance these rankings with where you expect them to actually go in your leagues. So I have Raridan at 12, Oscar Delp at 13, Eli Stowers at 14. I don't want to spend a ton of time with the individual profiles today.
It's fine.
We've done it a lot over the draft season. So there's profiles out on each of these individuals that you can watch. I like the landing spot for each of them. I'm a little confused on how it will work out for Stowers, but still getting the round 2 draft capital and the chance to play a prominent role on passing downs on 3rd downs, a chance to maybe establish himself as like the most physical presence on the pecking order for the passing offense. If AJ Brown leaves, to like kind of step into more of those opportunities. It's all interesting enough that I've got him up in this range, but I do think Delp and Raridan are much more likely to hit throughout their career, even if the upside isn't quite as high as Eli Stowers' hypothetical upside. I think the chance of them becoming a starting tight end and hitting is higher, and I like the spot for both of them. I love being paired up with Drake May, and then Oscar Delp being paired up with Kellen Moore. That's exciting to me as well. So I do have them ahead of Stowers. Chris Bell, love Chris Bell. Love the opportunity in Miami. We'll see how much he contributes in year 1. But I'm very content taking shots on Chris Bell in round 2. And then I have Brendan Thompson is my next receiver. I'm just super, super high on this guy and love the pairing with Justin Herbert. But it's a long-term bet. So Heath was asking me to do tiers today, and I was like, really? After Antonio Williams, who I've got at 11, you could just group pick 12 through 36 or 40-ish all as one tier. I do think there's some distinctions you can draw among them, but like really, they're all really, really similar. So it's all about what you need and like for your specific team. So I'm curious, Dan, we'll go through the players one by one and everything just so the audio listeners hear it too. Is there anything that clearly stands out to you as a disagreement with the top 20 that are on the board here that you're looking at?
A clear disagreement. We're just different on the tight ends. Stowers is probably my tight end one in this class. I just think I understand what you're saying with regards to like this. You think the floor might be higher for Raritan and Delp because they can block, but I also think both those players can end up being nothing at the NFL level. And Stowers to me is so good movement skills wise and as a receiver that he has something he can definitely do for an NFL team. I'm not as sure about that with Delp and Raritan. Raritan, I love though. Like Raritan is so up. This is the perfect landing spot for Raritan, right? Like the last time they drafted a 6'7", 6'8" guy who can run the seam and bend the seam was Rob Gronkowski, and it was the same offensive scheme. He's not Rob Gronkowski, obviously, but he can do similar things to Gronkowski from the vertical standpoint up the seam, and that's going to be so important to how they open up space in their offense. And they used Gronk in so many fun ways. Like they were the first team to be like, let's split out Gronk as our one on a 3x1 set and have it not be the way it's supposed to look. And then NFL teams copied that so fast and have been using that since till like today. Like that was years ago when McDaniels came up with that. So I'm high on Raritan too. I don't know where I land. I just think Stowers to me is the best bet because he's the best receiver by far of these guys to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Austin Lim in the chat is like, couldn't Raritan make an impact this season? The way they've talked about him, it does feel like they really want him to add weight and fill out. And this is a team that's, was dressed in the Super Bowl. So I doubt he's going to play much, maybe have a few, maybe like a Terrence Ferguson type of impact in year one, where he plays some as a receiver and they get him some red zone looks, some downfield looks and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be just pretty much all Hunter Henry. And they want him to hit the weights and come back in a year and be somebody who can play a lot more. So yeah, he's a wait and see pick. There's a lot of those. After that group of tight ends, Raritan, Delp, Stowers, and then Chris Bell and Brandon Thompson is Max Clare, another, I think, clear wait and see tight end, but one that we're very excited about. There's a profile on him as well if you want to watch that on Beyond the Box Score. Then it's Denzel Boston. So this is a clear deviation from consensus. I'm really nervous that we might not even see very much Denzel Boston this year. I talked about that with Heath on the Dynasty show. And if that's the case, that just scares me, where it's like, if we're not able to make an evaluation about him this year, then I don't really see him as much different than guys like Ted Hurst or Chris Bell or Brendan Thompson. And their situations feel a lot better than being buried in Cleveland and just hoping that a quarterback comes to rescue him. So, and being paired up with Casey Concepcion, who I think, same draft class and is like, has the potential to be a legitimate target hog, and Harold Fannin, who's 21 years old and has the potential to be a legit target hog. The more you think about it, it starts to become very hard to ever really project Denzel Boston to be anything other than just a decent real life receiver. And if he can't get on the field ahead of Cedric Tillman this year, then that is not a good start to changing that opinion. So I'm worried he's just going to be overdrafted. Ted Hurst and Zachariah Branch are who I have directly behind him. Dude, I'm kind of coming around on Zachariah Branch. I didn't really expect to, but as I've been watching the film, I watched it for him and Colby Young. He's better, I think, at the receiver stuff than people give him credit for. He has way better hands than I expected and better ball tracking and everything. And yeah, I thought I was going to be watching Kadarius Toney or something, the way that people talk about this guy. I think there's a real chance that he can do more than just the screen stuff. And so that's pretty interesting to me. I think he's worth taking a shot on around 2 if you want somebody who could maybe do something this year. Even if the long-term upside maybe isn't as high as some of these other players, if he's just only ever going to be a slot guy, I don't really know. I know some people have been like, maybe he's Tyreek Hill, maybe he's so athletic and everything that he just turns into something that we didn't really see at the college level. So I guess there's that kind of ultimate upside, but that seems not likely at all. Tyreek Hill is really the only Tyreek Hill I've ever seen.
True.
So I've got Branch at 20, Jonah Coleman at 21, which I think is pretty low based off what I've been seeing in early drafts. Do you have any Jonah Coleman thoughts? I think that he could get on the field a little bit this year, but to me, this feels like you're just drafting the third string running back, which is what a lot of these guys are going to be.
Drafting the third string running back on a team that has really not blocked well in the run game, and the run game has kind of looked off altogether since Sean Payton got there. I don't love that either.
So 21 is where I have Coleman. I do like the skill set overall and think that he could take work from Harvey in time, maybe even this year. And maybe he gets in a larger role if Dobbins does get hurt or something. He's not a bad pick, but I don't think I would be taking him ahead of some of these receivers and tight ends. So I think have a really clear path to upside, even if it might just take a year, because I think it might take a year for Coleman too. Jeremy Bernard is interesting and has been moving up my ranks. That's the thing is like, I feel like this is actually, I like Jeremy Bernard. I like Malachi Fields. I like John Stribling. So for Coleman to be here, I think is saying something. I just really like the upside for some of these guys that I have above him. But again, a lot of these guys are going to fall. Hurst, maybe not so much, but Thompson, Claire, maybe, Delp, maybe Raritan for sure. I think you can get them later.
It shows how crazy this draft class is that I've never felt this way since we started doing this show, but I would have such a different way to rank this group. And that just shows how crazy this draft class is to me.
Shout it out, man.
Like I would never have Brennan Thompson that high. I love him. I know you, and then that's more of a your call, and I get that, and I like him, but I just don't see that much of a path for fantasy success there personally. Max Clare I would never draft because I'm just think he's going to get buried personally in that it's a deep tight end room, and he's good. It could be a good real life player. Ted Hurst, I would have Stribling way up. Like Stribling for me would be potentially probably right after Stowers. Since tight end premiums, I have to like figure that in. But Stribling would be right after Stowers for me at the lowest for me.
So Stribling is like a early round 2 pick in your opinion?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anybody who I have ahead of him in the wide receiver rankings that you would keep ahead of him? That's Malachi Fields, Jeremy Bernard, Zach Branch, Ted Hurst, Denzel Boston.
No.
Chris Bell.
I'd probably put him over Chris Bell as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I'd put him over Antonio Williams as well, too.
Why?
Because of the draft capital, because of the offense, and because of my belief that I don't know how good we are at scouting these players. We have our guys we like, but to me, and there was aspects of Stribling's game that I really liked, like his breakaway speed. I can see I see what Shanahan, obviously it's an outlier pick and they got buried for it, and everybody was crapping on John Lynch and the 49ers. They take the guys they want. They don't go to that consensus board. But like for what that offense asks of you, the Shanahan offense and everyone who runs that tree, what they really want is receivers who can create that separation at the top of their route, sell vertical, and then break inside. And then you have all this space off of play action because everybody's focused on the run game and McCaffrey and Kittle and whatever it may be. And then just hit those in breakers on time. I feel like Stribling can do that really, really well. And then has like some underrated breakaway speed on tape. Stribling that doesn't, I guess it showed up because he ran a 4.37, but it's pretty much there. So to me, I'm betting on the draft capital. I'm betting on the role they find from. I'm betting on the offense that works in San Fran. I don't know if I have that same bet with Boston. I don't think I have that same bet with Antonio Williams at all, or any of those guys that we mentioned. To me, like he's the clear. I would have him clearly over all those guys.
I mean, these guys are all around 2 and 3 picks. It's not like I'm throwing in. I mean, other than my boy Brennan Thompson. You know what I mean? It's not like
it's not late draft capital, but it's not the same draft capital as Stribling. And I also just don't think like Antonio Williams has the same upside as a player like Stribling.
He produced way better. He has, I think, a clear like fantasy friendly game, and he is.
I liked him a lot.
Jane Daniels.
I think he was held back by Clemson's terrible season and at times spotty quarterback play. But I just feel like the role for Stribling is going to be so much better than the role for him or some of these other guys.
I don't think he's going to play unless there's an injury.
Unless there's an injury?
Yeah. I mean, I think he could play.
Who's going to play? You think it's going to be Pearsall? Like who?
Pearsall, Evans, Christian Kirk.
I guess for now that's possible. I just don't trust Pearsall to stay healthy. And I don't think they would draft him if they felt good about Pearsall, even in the short term, but definitely in the long term. This is for Dynasty too. So I'm just like focusing more on like the long-term fit here. I think there's a non-zero chance we could get to the season and Stribling's playing over Pearsall.
Maybe, yeah.
He's going to block every snap for them.
I like Stribling. I like Stribling a lot. Watching his film, it's clear why they liked him. But he's also going to be 24 years old this year, and
that sucks.
Didn't produce until the end of his career.
That's fair.
doesn't really, to me, strike me as a player who's going to have much upside as a route winner. I think that he's a player who can survive as an NFL route winner and maybe even produce in an offense like this that's really good. But to me, there's more upside for Ted Hurst, for Boston, for Thompson, for Chris Bell in terms of how they could, and Antonio Williams in terms of how they could produce for fantasy. There's not very many players like Stribling, I don't think, where it's like probably never going to have a target share above 20%. You have to catch and run, and then to get big plays, you have to be in a good offense and get some touchdown luck and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just don't really think that I think he's a better real life. Like if you're like, who's more likely to have, multiple seasons of 500 yards, then it's him. Yeah, I would bet on him over everybody on this list except maybe Bernard, but probably just him because of the landing spot. But I think who's more likely to like actually matter for fantasy, which is not that easy to do. You have to be really good. Like Josh Downs is really, really good. And for as much as we love him, has never really mattered for fantasy that much. So that's what I'm aiming for here, is trying to find those kinds of players. And I think that he could do that. But it's, I don't know, like if you have his whole career, like outlook, it's like only 10% of it is that. And even when it is that, I don't know how meaningful it actually is. I'd be really surprised if he was ever like the number one receiver on a team or something like that, which I think you legitimately could get from somebody like Ted Hurst or Chris Bell.
You could get it from those two. I'm not sure you could get it from Antonio Williams. And I like Antonio Williams. I think for me, it would be like a combination of Stribling, Antonio Williams, Hurst, and Bell in that like 4-ish range. So we're pretty close with the exception of Brennan.
Antonio Williams, Matt Harmon is compared to Sterling Shepard. And I think that's really an interesting one where in some situations, Shepard was kind of the wide receiver one on his team. I think that's going to be pretty rare. But he's a player who can beat all different types of coverages and work from the inside out. I don't think he's doing that at as high of a level as let me talk to you about Antonio Williams a little bit with the coach speak, because it was ridiculous.
Yeah, let's hear that.
The GM just went on and on and on about him. Like I almost never see something like this where it's like the entire page just filled up with Antonio Williams hype. And of course it's not showing up on where I saved it. Okay. That's really annoying. I'll get to that in a moment.
I'm curious about that.
I want to talk about these running backs after Jonah Coleman. I would rather take a shot on Damon Claiborne than Emmett Johnson and Mike Washington and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And I think maybe I'm getting striblinged here with Kalen Black. I think I would rather just have Black than those guys. I mean, I don't know if he's getting the role, but like if Christian McCaffrey goes down and he does get the role, that's so much more meaningful than anything else here. Maybe Emmett Johnson in Kansas City, I guess. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
Of course it makes sense because it's dynasty and it's a long game. And there's a good chance that Emmett Johnson and Mike Washington, for however much better they may be as football players, don't ever get any opportunity there. Ken Walker just signed a long deal, man. And like the Chiefs, I don't think they signed him to be this workhorse personally. I think they just signed him to be a weapon on their offense. So that one I feel a little bit better about. Can Emmett Johnson carve out a little bit of a role there? And like you can win in a 2-back role with a team like KC. If they can reach their ceiling as an offense, you can win by getting a second back, a 1B there. But with Mike Washington, it's like, what are we betting on here? Like this Raiders offense being amazing? Because that's the only path I feel like I see with him.
Yeah, that's fair. The chat is not happy that I'm this low on our guy Emmett Johnson.
No, Emmett, I'm not with you on. The Washington one, I'm more with you on.
Okay. So Emmett Johnson would then be your running back behind Coleman, your next running back?
I might argue Emmett over Coleman. I'm not going to lie. Because I don't see the Chiefs ever being like, all right, we signed Walker to be a workhorse. I would think they're like, oh, we think he can be a weapon. So if that's the case, I feel like he may even have a better path to playing time than Jonah Coleman. And I liked him more than Coleman, so that's part of it. I just had a better grade on him.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that, I don't know. I was really surprised when they took him at Johnson. I think they do like Brashard Smith. And then I think DeMarcado is just really solid at what he does and is a way better pass blocker, just bigger, much, much bigger guy. And to me, that's way more important is protecting Patrick Mahomes. So we'll see, but I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he's not active on game day.
It might not be a year one thing for Emmett Johnson for Dynasty. It might be a back end year one thing. I don't know. I just think he offers that running back room something that only I'll take that back. I think he offers that running back room something none of those three guys have. Walker, Rashard Smith, and DeMarcado. And that's processing and that's inside running. And the upside of being the best, maybe pure runner, not including Walker, because Walker's so explosive. But like as far as just like maximizing yards, something they love. The Kareem Hunt. They like had Kareem.
I was going to say he's the new Kareem Hunt.
That's my thought, though. Can he be the new Kareem Hunt? I'm not kidding. I actually think there's potentially he could be the new Kareem Hunt, which is why I like him better than a lot of these guys.
That's interesting. All right, let me give you some Antonio Williams propaganda. There is a lot of it.
Yeah, let's hear this.
Okay, this is from the GM. Antonio Williams is a super hard worker, consistent. He understands the game, understands zone, understands man, understands how to win. He's super competitive. He's super tough. He's a great athlete, really fast in a lot of different ways. NFL route runner. He can win versus press. He can beat man coverage. We really like the versatility. He can play inside. He played a lot of inside this year. He played outside last year. Winning against really good players outside really differentiated him from a lot of guys. There's a lot of really, really good things about him. Just all around great package. On how Peters sees him lining up in Washington, he can play the Z and he can play the slot. He'll work at both of those. He's not huge, but he's not small. He's a really tough player. And he's got really good releases, and he plays really fast. So those things allow him to win on the outside versus bigger corners. He can win on the inside with his quickness as well. Just the speed and detail and precision and the quickness in and out of his breaks. He doesn't look like a college guy out there. He's meticulous with his details. He's a good blocker. He's a willing blocker. He's a tough blocker, and he's willing to sell out over the middle of the field. He's not worried about getting hit. That was a pleasant surprise on the tape. On how he might complement Terry McLaurin, Terry can do just about everything and certainly take the top off the defense, and he's a great deep ball receiver. You can see Antonio play vertically also, but he's also really good underneath. You can see him really helping us out on third downs. We'll have multiple guys across formation that can win on third down, not just him and Terry. He's quick and fast. He's very good route runner. He's more an underneath guy than Terry, but certainly versatile enough to do the rest of the stuff. That's what he looked like on film, but yeah. I just think that we're kind of moving away from these slot guys that are like really good winners, like the Elijah Moore types or whatever, that they're kind of getting outgrown as the NFL changes or whatever. And maybe that is kind of what we have here. But as you look at this Washington depth chart as it currently exists, maybe it will change. Maybe they do bring in other guys. It feels like there's an opportunity for him to be a really big part of the offense in the way that he just described. And that would be really meaningful for fantasy. Like it's the lower end of this tier of guys where it's like, who are players like this? Maybe Tyson, definitely Mekhi Lemon, definitely Casey Concepcion, definitely Omar Cooper Jr., where it's like they've dominated in the slot, but they can also do other stuff. If you go to two receivers, they can play on the outside. They're good enough blockers. They're physical enough players. They can beat press coverage. Maybe not Omar Cooper Jr., but Lemon and Concepcion definitely can. And so that, it seems like, is the skill set for him. And he gets to go play with Jaden Daniels and on a team where there's no clear top target earner. Terry McLaurin's never been a high target guy. And so the path to fantasy production is like clearly there, and everything about his film checked out. It's just like, is an NFL team going to care? Seems like this one really does. And so I'm really, really intrigued by Antonio Williams.
Incredibly compelling case you made there, Jacob. And some of that was backed up. And for those asking in the comments, the reason that sounded like a whole story was because that was the GM basically waxing poetic about this guy. And I loved his tape. He made my sleeper episode for Big Blue Banter. Like I thought this guy was one of the underrated players in this class. And he was, when I said earlier, in that tier with me with Stribling, him and Hurst. But yeah, maybe he is the best bet of those guys. It's interesting to think about. I'm definitely hyped about it. You made a good case.
Yeah. Shout out Coach Speak Index, really invaluable tool, especially this time of the year, but really, really important during the season as well. These post draft pressers are gold. Like, cause there was somebody who I was really excited about and got like absolutely nothing from the team during the post draft presser. And I thought it was so weird. I'll let you know if I remember it.
Okay.
Oh, it was Omar Cooper Jr., where the team just talked about Sadiq, and then like was like, Omar Cooper Jr. is great with the ball in his hands. Yeah, I think he's going to help us. And it's like, okay. But like this one, it's like they have a very clear reason and a clear role why they bring him in. They think that he complements the receiver in the room and everything. Feels like he's probably just going to be the number 2 receiver on the team.
Yeah.
All right. So you agree that Black is worth drafting in fantasy. Kalen Black, back to the running backs here. But you would have him at Johnson ahead of him. Is there anybody else from the Washington, Singleton, Catron group, Heidenreich, Adam Randall, pass catching skill sets here, or is Black your next up after Claiborne and Emmett Johnson?
It's tough, man. Coleman? It's really tough. He's my next up just because their path is so much clearer. Like Christian McCaffrey, wears down. They start to take him off the field. They want to keep him fresh for the playoffs. All that. At the same time, he's been really bad. And by he, I mean John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They've been really bad at drafting running backs, man. It's been miss after miss after miss after miss. And they're trying over and over again. Something about that stands out to me. Like, I don't know what it is. And then the one time they hit on a UDFA, they traded him. And he was like clearly their best evaluation, Jordan Mason, out of all the guys they've tried to do this with.
Yeah.
So it just scares me that they may not be like, I love Kyle. I'm not knocking Kyle. Kyle is one of the best designers of offense in the NFL. He's a great play caller. He understands the time and sequences play calling. But evaluating talent is a totally different thing. The only time he's ever hit at running back is when he traded for one in Christian McCaffrey. That's not really a hit. That's just like trading for the best player at the position in football. Good job, type of thing. So I just a little scared by that track record with those guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I will say, like, they've kind of, I think that's relevant to Stribling as well. Like, they've kind of missed not just the running back, but like basically, any skill possession players that they've been drafting lately outside of like round one, including round one.
What pick was Jennings was a draft pick, right?
Juwan Jennings, yes, eventually became productive for a year. And I think he was a 5th round pick. I think that's right.
What do you mean eventually became productive for a year?
He was a good real life player. He didn't matter in fantasy until 1 year.
Oh, for fantasy. Got you. Yeah. I also think Ayuk was a great evaluation by them. I know he's got injured and now his career is like ruined or whatever, but he just broke out. When he was healthy, he was one of the best route winners in the NFL.
Yeah. I guess I'm looking more specifically at like the later picks.
Okay.
But yeah, Ayuk was sick.
But Stribling was pretty early.
33rd. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Kalen Black, I don't know, like people are upset because Jordan James didn't work out last year and there have been misses before that too, but like James got hurt last year, right? Like I don't
James is not his worst miss, but he had like 5 or 6 misses before. They basically draft a running back every year.
Yeah. I think there's a chance with Kalen Black that he could just be the running back too. I think he's really, really solid player. They seem to really like him.
Yeah.
So he's interesting to me among running backs in this range. I mean, day 2 running back on a really good offense. I know it's sucked in the past, but if you're just taking random shots on players in this range, I think that's not a bad way to use it, especially if you need running back.
Good draft capital. It's all there. So I don't mind that.
We can move Emmett Johnson ahead of him. That's fine. Okay.
No, we don't have to move players on my regard. This is your rankings, Jacob.
Yeah. I mean, I told you at the start that the difference between pick 12 and pick 40 is nothing. Flip a coin. Don't care. So yeah, Emmett Johnson is sick. We liked him going to the draft. He's more fantasy friendly player in theory than Kalen Black, and that's all we have is theory on all these guys. Literally none of them might play. I have no idea. So
I have a hot team coming up at some point.
Well, we're gonna stop here. Actually, I'm gonna roll these for a little bit and let people see them, but we're gonna get back and talk about these profiles in more detail on Thursday's show. So these are Dynasty rookie ranks for Superflex and Tight End Premium. I'm going to, after this, go ahead and talk about how I would change things for other formats. But just to wrap up, here's like the top 40, top 50 for you guys and girls who are watching on YouTube. Am I too low on Colby Young? Do you have any thoughts on the Cincinnati fit?
You know, I love this fit. Right. This was as good as it gets for me. I'm going to the Bengals is like literally as good as they've been trying to find with Jermaine Burton. They've been trying to find this type of bigger player who's explosive. Let's see if it works. It's still a risk. It's a late round guy, but I like him.
At 63rd overall, my rookie rankings, you'll see J. Michael.
There he is.
Sturdivant, baby. Let me open up the screen a little bit here to get it up. Yes, J. Michael Sturdivant to the Green Bay Packers, UDFA. Let's go.
That.
Yep. Okay. Colby Young, Cincinnati. Let's see where would you put him? Ahead of Caleb Douglas for Miami, round 3 pick?
Yes.
Ahead of Cyrus Allen to the Chiefs, round 5 pick? Ooh, okay. Chris Braswell, Carolina, round 3, I think. Round 4, maybe?
I don't think I can do that.
Kind of finding the range here then?
Yeah.
Bryce Land, Skylar Bell, Elijah Surratt.
I have one UDFA in this range. I know we didn't want to talk about it too much, but like he
was awesome.
Ranked on my board.
Who are you talking about?
I would personally not rank Carson Beck on my board. He's an undraftable.
Oh, dang. I thought you were saying you had a UDFA receiver.
Sorry. I have somebody who would have a UDFA grade. I view him in the sense of like when the Jets drafted Christian Hackenberg. This has no chance to work. Somebody actually gave me the comp. I was looking for a comp. Let me give you my favorite new comp for Carson Beck. It's Mike Glennon without the arm talent. That's exactly what I feel like I watch when I see Carson Beck. Maybe he's a little bit of a better processor. Maybe, may not be. I don't know. It's not going to matter. He is tall, lengthy with no arm. It's never going to work.
Well, here's the thing. In Superflex leagues, you can trade a 48-year-old Phillip Rivers for a 4th-round rookie pick just because he's going to start a game.
Right. So you're saying for that, but I don't think this guy will ever start, personally. I think Brissett will play this year, and then they'll draft someone over him next year.
Yeah, no idea, but I think there's a chance that he could start this year. So looking at their
players
like
in season, they could just throw him to the Wolves. Yep. Yeah, there could be some in-season chucks to the Wolves, but I think he'll then get benched. It'll be like a 1 to 3 game, and they'll have to rebench him because he's so bad. You're muted.
Yeah, it's because I got somebody here knocking on my door. That's crazy.
I thought that was like you. That's so funny. I heard that whole thing. That was awesome.
Alrighty. We're gonna move on here, but yeah, if you want to move any of these players up, I think that's fine. I know that this feels really low. I mean, I've seen Singleton go in round 2. I've seen Katron Allen go in round 2 of drafts. If do you need a running back and you felt good about the value? I mean, Katron Allen could play in year 1. He also could not be on the roster. Like he could not even get a jersey because they signed a bunch of guys. And so if Bill's their guy, then it's probably going to be Bill, special teams, passing downs. Katron Allen doesn't play. But these guys are decent. Katron Allen, I really liked his film, and I think there's a chance that he could get in. We'll talk about these guys more on Thursday.
Yeah,
so,
I'm intrigued by them all.
How would things change if we're not playing tight end premium? Ooh. Where does Kenyon Sadiq go in that scenario? I would have him behind these receivers right here, Chris Bell and Brennan Thompson. And so all the other tight ends would move down as well. Would you move him down even further? I know we see some of these receivers differently, but would you rather have, for instance, Sadiq or Denzel Boston, Sadiq or Zachariah Branch?
Oh, I do like Branch too. I think it's Sadiq for me, even in non-tight end premiums, which is crazy to say because I don't like Sadiq as a bet for Dynasty. I just don't really like a lot of those other players. At least with Sadiq, I can see the upside that I may not be able to see for those other players.
Okay, so this feels about right then?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I said at the beginning of the show, I have Stowers above Sadiq. Stowers is my tight end 1 in this class for fantasy.
Okay. For this format where you don't get extra points,
right.
I actually think that Stowers would be my tight end 2, and what differentiates it is I think he has by far the most hypothetical upside. So in this format, you just have to fill a tight end spot. I'm kind of looking for that. I'm hoping that I can land something like that. And then somebody like Oscar Delp and Raritan don't matter quite as much. I think Oscar Delp in this format, if you're playing in really, really deep leagues, actually can just be a flex if need be. Obviously, you don't want to have to do that. But that's kind of where I'm at, is like in those tight end premium leagues, especially if it's a full tight end premium league, like full extra point per catch. I just want to find guys who can play and can get some catches and get some points.
We have a very different read on this, which I like. I like that we can disagree on some stuff. Because I just feel like with Delp, like I understand where you're coming from, but it's also a guy who never caught any passes at the college level. So I just think there's a chance he's just not a pass catcher.
Sure.
And then he's not like, I get what you're saying, that they'll get on the field, but like, will they be used? And honestly, I have question marks if they'll get on the field. These guys are good blockers at the college level. I'm not so sure they're all going to be guaranteed to be good blockers at the NFL level. Delp especially. Raritan, I think, will be a great blocker. Raritan, I'm sure on. He has the frame for it, and he has different kind of strength. Delp was a good blocker for his size. I felt like more than like an actual good blocker.
People in the comments are dying laughing at the having the doorbell thing going off and it being like right here where I'm recording, like
yeah,
right
it's just as loud
to my
as
living room.
Possibly be.
I'm in transition this offseason, move things around in the house, so I'm like, yeah, set up way nearer to the door than I ever would be otherwise.
Awesome. I don't know how it was so loud. It sounded like a commercial.
It was hilarious. It was like right by me, and I was like, "Go away!" Like, no, this is not a good time for this. Okay, so yeah, for non-tight end premium leagues, I would move Stowers, Raritan, and Delp behind Stribling, Malachi Fields, and Jeremy Bernard. We didn't get to spend much time with Bernard earlier. Have you watched his film? I think he actually might be a really good NFL player, kind of like Stribling. I don't know if it'll actually matter too much for fantasy, but I think he might be somebody who gets on the field in year 1, especially if there's injuries or anything like that. I think he could be somebody who gets on the field and stays on the field.
I really like Jeremy Bernard. My struggle with drafting him is the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. I don't really see the path for how it gets any better. Because they're Steelers and they're going to win games and they're not going to be in the mix to draft someone. So it's just like, I don't know. And if this year, if it is Will Howard or Alar, and maybe they'll sign Russ or something, I guess they just need to find something that can move the ball. Like those two will not move the football, in my opinion. Aller maybe if something weird happens, but if Will Howard's in there, it's really bad.
Okay, so this is where I'd move these tight ends. I would move Sadiq down to like just outside of round 1, basically for non-tight end premium leagues. Stowers, Raritan, and Delp are like lower end round 2 picks for non-tight end premium leagues. For Dan, Stowers is closer to that round 1 range, I think. And then Max Clare would be a little bit behind them. I've got in between Delp and Clare, I have Claiborne, Emmett Johnson, and Kalen Black. So like around three pick on Clare. But again, it's just a wait and see pick with him. And then like Justin Jolie is who I have next at tight end. A lot of really speculative players: Sam Roush, Jack Andres, Marlon Klein. Those players would basically just not be draftable. They would be at like outside of the top 40-ish for non-tight end premium leagues. I don't think that there's much of a chance of them mattering for that format. And then for non-Superflex leagues, where are we moving the dozer?
Oof. Real low for me. You're at 6 with him in a non-Superflex?
I think he would be lower than that. I'm thinking about it. I think I would move Ty Simpson in this format like way down. I think he's way more relevant in a Superflex league. In a non-Superflex league, I don't know if Ty Simpson ever is going to have the upside to really be somebody that you care that much about rostering. So he'd probably be like where Max Clare is, or even lower, like below the Emmett Johnson, Claibornes, and those types for Ty Simpson. For Mendoza, I think I would put him behind Jadarian Price and ahead of Antonio Williams. But if you really need a shot at help for the flex right now, then you'd probably just draft Antonio Williams. Or if you want to take a shot on Chris Bell's upside, that's fine with me. So he's kind of like Sadiq, but I feel more confident in him.
Yeah, 1 QB for me. He's just real low for me. I don't know. I probably put him. Maybe I put him right alongside Ty Simpson, I guess, for this type of format, because I just don't really see either of them ever really mattering in this format. 1 QB, it's 12 teams or a 10-team league. Even it's probably, hopefully, you're playing in 12, but you might play a 10. And then it's just like there's so many quarterbacks, you're never gonna really need to play. I could be wrong on Mendoza though. Mendoza, I'm intrigued by what you said. Like maybe he's just a gamer who's going to they're going to run zone read with in the red zone. Like if they do run a lot of zone read with him in the red zone, I like him a lot more for fantasy, because then he might get like the Jackson Dart 4 to 7 touchdowns per year kind of thing, and the rushing touchdowns. And it totally changes his profile. But I don't know. And I don't like the receiver core. There's just not a lot around him for me to like him for 1 QB. At least with Ty Simpson, I can make the case of, I like Mendoza's tape better in projection, but at least Ty Simpson gets McVay and Puka and those tight ends and the offensive line and like all that fun stuff around him,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just not high on Mendoza, and it's just where I'm going to draw my line. It just is what it is. I'm not high on him for fantasy, any format.
Okay. Where did you end up with Simpson for like Superflex leagues? Did you feel like I was too high on him? He's going in round 1 in most drafts that I've seen so far. If you are, that's what I want to transition to next, is like some long-term stashes and just kind of giving people an idea of how to approach these drafts. To me, he's like clearly the best example of just like a long-term stash, is like him and his new teammate, Max Clare.
Sure.
Is he a round 1 pick for you in that type of situation where you struck out on Michael Penix or whatever, Anthony Richardson, those types over the years? Is this somebody you would take that early?
Yeah, I think, look, in Superflex, there's a desperation at quarterback. So you have to make some of these gambles, and you have to hope that it's kind of like the implied odds thing that I was talking about with Taylor Green. It's like, it's more likely to not hit, but if it hits, it's worth so much more than Antonio Williams or whatever it may be. And that's not an example. He wouldn't go in that range, but whoever's going in that range.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Antonio Williams is going a little bit behind him, but I think he's going to keep pushing up the board. It's probably like Jadarian Price. What about Omar Cooper Jr.? Like, all things equal, do you prefer one or the other?
Oh, those two receivers or Simpson over those guys?
Simpson to those guys.
I think it's Superflex. I'll go Simpson.
Okay. You're pretty high on him. You're basically where I'm at.
I'm relatively high on him just for that format, but
Concepcion?
I'll go Concepcion over him, even though I'm so worried about that quarterback situation. Even into the future, I don't know for sure if we're going to get what we want there.
Okay. I'm about to throw it up on the screen. I've got a list of long-term stashes, and I'm curious if anybody else comes to mind that you're particularly intrigued by that you think is worth rostering over. Let's draw a Savion Williams line for these players. How's that sound?
Sure.
Somebody you've got deep on your bench that you think has some long-term promise. So the names I have are Ty Simpson, Eli Raridan, Max Clare, Chris Bell, Brennan Thompson, Ted Hurst, Bryce Lance, and Chris Brazel. Anybody beyond that you think is an intriguing long-term stash that comes to mind?
Let's throw a list up and just so I can see the names and get an idea through that. So we didn't, Skylar Bell wasn't mentioned on there. I would say he's more intriguing. So I'll start by saying him. Definitely Elijah Surratt for me after listening to the Raven GM talk about using him as a power slot or just moving him inside and at all. Definitely Elijah Surratt, especially after Likely's now off that team. Surratt for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about Surratt real quick. He was your boy going into the draft. We each did a conviction call. Mine was Brennan Thompson. Yours was Surratt. So I want to just kind of give you. I mean, obviously these are my rankings, but like I want to do the show together and give them a representation of where you'd be at. I've got my boy all the way up at where is he? 16 or whatever. What about Surratt? Is he pushing up into this like Malachi Fields, Jeremy Bernard range for you? Is he a round 2 pick? I traded away my round 2 pick today. Somebody moved up, used it to get Surratt.
It's interesting.
206.
I mean, that offense is still like it's so evolving because they're going to eventually move away from Henry. Like Henry, how many more years does Derrick Henry have left, right? And then I think it's a totally different looking offense. I'm trying to guess how I think it's going to go in year one with that Bears like offense in mind and like what that will mean for Lamar Jackson and everything. Like what would Surratt's role be like burden at? Like I don't know what his exact role will be early. That's the part that has me a little bit of reservation behind it. But there's so much opening. There's so much upside there. He can do something so different than I think anyone on that roster can do. Bateman, Flowers. So maybe I wouldn't push him as far up as you had Brennan though.
Yeah. It's hard to say because we don't know what the offense is going to look like. It's a new offensive coordinator, young offensive coordinator. They added some new pieces there in the receiver room and tight ends and everything too. No more Isaiah Likely. Don't really know. They added a pass catching running back. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But this is a guy who we do think has a potentially a fantasy friendly game. Like he's on the lowest end of this tier, I think, of like guys who can play inside out and maybe be productive. It's like, so what about him and Malachi Fields, where Fields is probably like the higher upside framework. I don't even know if that's right though. Like Surratt was more productive.
Surratt to me like has like the if you're gonna see like is there like a Keenan Allen type hit in this draft, it would be Surratt for me.
Right. Would you take him ahead of Fields?
Yeah.
Would you take him ahead of Denzel Boston? Not that you necessarily need to, but how do you feel about those two?
It's so funny. I think I might.
It's so weird, man. Boston. I think Boston's really interesting in that he might develop into a better player than all these guys, and is probably better right now. But it's like if you look at Boston and Jeremy Bernard and Elijah Surratt, Malachi Fields and Dejon Stribling, it's like they could get on the field this year. We don't really know if they will, but there's sort of a path to that. And they're all in pretty good offenses, with the worst offenses being Cleveland by far, and then like I guess Pittsburgh and the Giants. And so if you don't feel like they're like significantly different as talents, then why is Boston clearly the best bet?
I know. And almost to me, it's like, what if
he got drafted behind Stribling, like the draft cap was not way different for these guys.
I would
sorry to cut you off, but it's such an interesting range of receivers.
Yeah. Yep, it is. And it's so hard to make your bets because you're either betting on the talent or the situation or the role, and all those feel so open-ended across the board to me, with the exception, for me at least, of just Stribling, who I think is a very good fit for what Shanahan wants to do offensively.
Yeah. All right. I think that these stashes are all really interesting, but again, like we love Ted Hurst here. We love, Bryce Lance, Brennan Thompson, Chris Bell.
Hurst. We haven't even talked about him, but I love the Tampa fit. Love it.
But I just do want it to be very clear that they could break out this year if there's a bunch of injuries to their teammates or whatever.
Not likely.
Most likely they're just going to be developmental players. Maybe Brennan Thompson makes some splash plays. It gets on the field if somebody gets hurt or whatever. I think he has the most NFL ready game, but even he like had a really stripped down route tree in college. It probably needs to kind of work on the refinement of some of his areas of the game and how he fits into the offense. I think that's where we're at with all these players. There's a lot of upside for the Raridans, et cetera. Basically, the whole tight end class is kind of fitting into this archetype, I would say. Skylar Bell was a good call out for sure. I think he's more NFL ready, but I also don't know if he'll get on the field very much because Khalil Shakir is just like the better version of him.
True. But that works for that offense. They could have like they just want guys who can win around the line of scrimmage at receiver.
Yeah. All right. I'm looking. Here's some of the lower range of these players. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that's worth mentioning as a player that we like and think is worth drafting, but is more of just a wait and see. Like Heidenreich, I guess, is kind of fitting into that. If you want to take him late in the draft, probably not going to be super relevant this year.
You mentioned Colby Young earlier. Marlon Klein, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued a lot by
all the tight ends. Yeah, no, I mean, he got drafted early.
Yes. Not only did he get drafted early, that's why I'm most intrigued by him, the capital, but also because when I called him out as somebody I liked, it wasn't because I was like, oh, this dude's like a two-way tight end that can play wide. I was like, no, he just moves different than all the tight ends in this class. And that to me is like, okay, does Houston see that? And does Houston be like, we can get him matched up. We can get a big passing game role for him. So as far as like the receiving upside goes, it's Stowers clearly one for me. I think he's by far and away the best receiver. But Klein would be in the mix for like 2, 3, 4, 5, as far as just moving differently on the field, creating separation, getting open, and then getting targets. And for me, for tight end, I'm looking for that way more than like a two-way Y, because I think a two-way Y will get on the field a lot more, but will not be very involved in the passing game. I think these two guys can earn targets potentially at a higher level. So Klein would probably be someone I'm willing to bet on.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a totally valid pick in round 3-ish. There's definitely upside there. I've got him behind some guys who I really like at tight end just from watching them, like Jack Andres, and the fit in Cincinnati is interesting. But you can push him up. You can push him up for sure. Okay. I want to focus on the opposite end of this, which is players who could contribute in year one. There's not that many of them, but there are a few, I think, down the board who are interesting. It's Antonio Williams that we talked about. How realistic do you think Chris Bell breakout late in the season is?
Ooh.
Miami Dolphins, Chris Bell, round 3.
Unrealistic, I would say. 20 to 30% chance, even though I like the player a lot.
Okay. Zachariah Branch or Jeremy Bernard or Malachi Fields.
We're talking all for year one for this category, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Branch, Bernard, Fields, the guys we've talked about as the slot types. Who do you think would you bet on? Bernard. Even in Pittsburgh?
Well, you need Rodgers to come back. You need Aaron Rodgers. Or like, who else? I feel like there's a couple guys. It's not just Russell Wilson, right? Is there anyone else competent on the market at QB sitting around?
Phillip Rivers. I think Branch is interesting. And
there's one more
in Atlanta with Tua. I actually think that pairing makes sense, and he could have a decent role there. And there's really nobody else on the team. I don't know. It's just like London
the role could be there, but it's like London and Pitts will just dominate the targets and Bijan.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's not a good enough offense for me to care about the fourth option.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there it is. I
guess Bernard's the same thing, though. Like, is he really going to out-target Pittman and Metcalf? No. So that's terrible, too. I take that back. I'm actually completely out on Bernard in year one. This is a bad call. I'm mad I said
it. I think that he there's a shot. I mean, if Pittman,
he's a good player, and that's why I said it. But like, no, you're right.
Most likely not.
It'll be a weird year. Redraft. We'll see, because we know what's going to happen. It's fantasy. Every single rookie is going to get pushed up redraft boards with the hype in camp and everything. Maybe it's the year we just fully bottom out on it as analysts and say, don't take any of these rookies. Like, make a couple up top, obviously, but not too many.
It's going to be really interesting, man, because last year people were really, really hyped on the rookies. We've had all these good classes. And then last year's rookie class was disappointing for so much of the season. And then on the other side of that, we had a lot of veterans who ended up actually being really good picks, and the running back position for the second year in a row stayed really healthy. So I actually wonder if it's not this way at all. And with all the negative steam around the rookies this summer, if that does just carry over enough that by the time we get to the regular season, it's flipped and people are more content taking the Javantes and those guys. I know we talked about the opposite end of that with Jacobs and everything, but it's just like, I don't know how much rookie hype there really will be. I would be surprised. I know some of these guys will be hyped up, I guess, but I don't know if people are going to be pushing many of these players up. I think it might be a weird year for redraft. We'll see. We're just going to have to see where ADP falls on some of these players.
Just so much of that, like training camp, Twitter videos being circulated around, just adds to like unrealistic buzz for the rookies. It feels like every year.
Who? Cooper Jr. with the Jets? Like maybe
it'll be
Antonio
somebody
Williams.
To me, it'll be somebody who is in an offense where the roles are ambiguous and he could potentially, and on paper, feel like, oh my God, he could be the number one target guy. But then ultimately that offense ends up sucking. They don't get a lot of yards or touchdowns, and it really doesn't matter.
So is it Concepcion? I'm just like, we know who the
Concepcion's
players
a good
are.
example of that. Yeah, Concepcion could get pushed up boards. I think Tate could get pushed up boards and be a super big disappointment for fantasy. I think who else could get pushed up boards? If the Eagles trade AJ Brown, Lemon could get pushed up boards and be super disappointing, or Stowers could look really good in camp and then just not get the targets.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
It happens every year. We push them up. The videos go around. They make a sick highlight play against air, and then it's like, oh, wait a second. This doesn't matter at all for fantasy.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take one more break real quick, and then we're going to get back and run through what we got from each of these teams specifically, which teams were focused on defense, which teams brought in offensive line help, and all of that. And I think that'll just serve as a good, laying the foundation, the groundwork for trying to understand these teams. That's something we're going to be doing over the next few months, is like thinking about the coaching, thinking about what do these teams really want to do. Obviously, we haven't had the full, we need more time to process and unpack everything that just happened. To try and analyze all 32 teams is a lot. But I think it's important to start by saying, like, where did these teams add talent? Where did they neglect to add talent? So we focused at the top on the fantasy winners, the specific players. But I think thinking about it from a team-by-team level is interesting. I'm curious if any of these teams will stand out to you, Dan, as we go through this. Obviously we're hyped about the Chargers and stuff, but I think there's, I don't know. I think there's some other teams who, like the Dolphins, this is just a really random one, but like, it seems like they really want to do like one of the most run-heavy approaches on paper that we've seen of any team in a long time. And so what does that mean?
Right.
Ollie Gordon or something? You know what I mean? Like Devon Achane, sure. And he's great and everything, but like, honestly, I don't know exactly what the role is going to, or what the fantasy production will look like if his receiving role isn't the same.
Right.
And can he even handle, like, is it even a good thing that his team wants to run way more? And so I just want to, I don't know. I think when you actually get down and focus on the team by team level, and we'll have people who spend a lot of time in projections come on, Heath Cummings and Ryan Heath and people like that to help us understand that as well, like the math side of it. But I think just like really trying to like paint a narrative for what these teams think is going to work based off of their actions or inaction is really interesting. It might lead you to maybe Ollie Gordon's not a good pick or whatever, but like some players like that where it's like nobody is thinking about this guy, but his team seems like they're probably going to. So we'll get to that after we take one more break here, and then we'll wrap up, and we'll see y'all on Thursday to cover the NFC side of this.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, you need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now.
All right. Looks like Jacob is still going. I think we got one more break coming your way, and then we'll be back here.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it? The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount+.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
JJ, we appreciate your time breaking it down.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With the plays you missed
What a finish at the final round of play.
and analysis to give you an edge.
All we need is 20 points.
I was shaking in my boots.
Texas, Ohio State, who wins this game?
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I'm from Texas.
I now know why Monty was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman. New season now streaming. Only on Paramount+.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric.
Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
We are back on Beyond the Box Score. Let's finish out this 3-hour pod. Dan, how many hours do you think you've put in on Big Blue Banter over the past week?
Oh my God. I don't even know. It's so many.
Oh my gosh. You got your chomps? Take a little chomp break.
I need it, bro. I haven't eaten anything all day today, and it's like 4 p.m. or something.
All right, let me talk you through some of these teams. I'm going to throw up depth chart on the screen and just let you chew on that. Give you something to chomp on here. We're going to start with my Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs went defense with their first 4 picks. Not much of a surprise, I would say. They had a ton of holes on their defense. I was holding out a little bit of hope that we could get a, was it 2018, 2019 Patrick Mahomes onslaught, just the MVP season where it's just like, who cares about defense? We're just going shoot out every single game with the way that they handled their early offseason moves. But alas, defense does matter when you're trying to win Super Bowls. And so loaded up on defense to start things off. Didn't get their first offensive pick until round 5, Emmett Johnson. They went Emmett Johnson round 5, Cyrus Allen round 5 out of Cincinnati. They also added his teammate, super athletic, undrafted receiver, Jeff Caldwell out of Cincinnati. Dude, the Chiefs UDFAs have me psyched. I'm trying to get this. Yeah, that's brutal. I'm trying to get the visualization better here for the depth chart. Might have to bail on our lads, unfortunately, with these
Our lads can't do it. Our lads is going to freeze the computer up, even though it's the best one by far.
I know.
Unplayable.
Brutal.
I love our lad. Shout out. Great job. You do great. Shout out, Cy. But unfortunately, it kills your computer. It does, dude.
I don't know. I've never had a computer killed by our lads, but
it'll kill your computer, man. Can't have a tab open. Can't have an our lads tab open. I'm telling you.
Okay, so Emmett Johnson, Cyrus Allen round 5, and then Nuss falls all the way to round 7. This is a quarterback who some people had in round 1 just a year ago.
No, they did.
And so that's interesting. Back up to Mahomes. And then they add UDFA Jaden Ott, running back out of Oklahoma. Sigmund Bloom, we had on last week, really liked. And then our guy, John Michael Gillenborg, lands in Kansas City. Maybe just my guy. I don't know. I don't want to have to call him your guy if you don't want to claim him. But really good movement skills at the tight end position. Maybe not a great blocker. But yeah, the heir apparent, obviously, here to Travis Kelce is UDFA John Michael Gillenborg. Let's go. Pretty intrigued by this. Don't feel great necessarily about the offense. Not giving Patrick Mahomes more help here. Didn't add anything on the offensive line, which surprised me a little bit. But yeah, Rashee Rice is probably a fantasy winner, I would say. I guess Xavier Worthy, I was really kind of hoping they would get like an X receiver type who could free up Worthy to have more pre-snap motion and stuff like that, to get some more free releases off the line of scrimmage. But instead, it looks like we're just kind of heading into the year with the same receivers here for Kansas City. So like, is Rice, I know the vibes are bad and everything, but is Rice just kind of like where he was last year? Like, except now he's another year removed from the injury. Is he like a top 10 fantasy receiver pretty easily for 2026?
I think so, for sure.
Yeah. Yep, I think so as well. I mean, it's like Rice.
He'll get drafted accordingly too.
Yeah, Rice or Nico Collins, like that kind of range, I think is basically where he falls. It's a tougher eval for Dynasty. We don't really know his long-term future and everything with the Chiefs, but probably going to be pretty productive. I mean, he was really productive last year before the Mahomes injury.
No, it's sick. I see myself falling for the Worthy trap again. I can't fix it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to help myself.
Crazy, man. Not going to be me. But yeah, the
price is going to be so low.
Did not add anything that meaningful. I think Cyrus Allen is an interesting player. We'll see how it translates to the pros. Same with Emmett Johnson, interesting college player. We'll see how it translates to the pros. This team lost Hollywood Brown, and so I guess Tyquan Thornton will maybe inherit that role. That would be cool. Dan and I both like Thornton.
Oh, maybe I get in on Thornton instead. I love Thornton.
Do you think Travis Kelce is fantasy relevant at all? I know that you've been into Kelce in the past.
I have. I'll always, if Kelce is playing football with Patrick Mahomes, I'll always buy him at his price as it depresses year after year. I'll buy him again. Yeah, I'll buy him. It was a win last year. You won. If you bought him at the price you bought him at last year, it was a win. So he'll do his thing. He'll get random touchdowns. He'll get, it's not going to be great, but he'll do his thing. Like, where do we have him at 15? I'm not taking Kincaid over him. No offense. I'm not taking Helm over him.
Gunnar Helm is the man.
No, I'm not taking Brenton Strange over him.
Oh, really?
No way.
I think this is as high as I could push him as tight end 13 behind Strange, behind Gadsden.
Click his profile real quick. How many touchdowns did Kelsey have last year?
Just curious.
Don't know. No, click that. It'll show you. I'm just curious. It's important to me.
This is not important.
Oh, it's very important. You're going to have to click it real quick, and you're going to have to show me this touchdown number. What was it?
5.
That's worse than I thought it would be.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to the Chargers. The Chargers went heavy on the offensive line. Love to see it. And you liked this center that they got in round 2. Am I remembering that right?
He's such a good pick for them.
Okay. So we've got center in round 2, tackle in round 4, guard in round 6. Let's see if this is any better. Is this better visualization? That's a little bit better. 2 guards in round 6. So that's 4 offensive linemen in total. Their only skill position player that they brought in is Brandon Thompson. So when Brandon Thompson got picked, you were like, I wonder if this is maybe not good for Trey Harris or something. I think that I think if Quentin Johnson stays in the roster, that Thompson's just going to be a special teams guy and playing behind those 3, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson, and Trey Harris. I don't think that there's a whole lot of overlap in their skill sets. I think they really like Harris's blocking. What's going to concern me a little bit is if they bring in Keenan Allen, which they've talked about. That could be something that happens again. How do you feel about Trey Harris and Brendan Thompson the more do you think about it? Because that's the only skill position player we saw get added here.
I still think Harris and them, I think they play a different enough role that it could still work out for Harris. But I'm definitely, I don't know. It's trickier now, obviously.
What do you think about a long-term trio of McConkey, Harris, and Brendan Thompson? Do you think that that's functional? I think that could work.
If McDaniel's still the coordinator, I think it could definitely work. We saw something like that work already for him.
And so
model.
In that case, it's probably, I think, Harris being more of the target earner than Thompson.
Yeah.
And McConkey kind of featured, and then Thompson giving big plays. And if one of them were to get hurt, like if McConkey got hurt or something, then I think Thompson could step into a really meaningful role. So we still feel good about Trey Harris then, huh?
Yeah, I still feel great about Harris.
I sent 206 and 211 for Trey Harris today. You like that?
206 and 211?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like that.
You're turning your Zachariah Branch and Elijah Surratt into Trey Harris?
Right. Yeah, I still do really like that. Harris, if he was in this class, might have been all the way up there, like wide receiver 6 for me or 5. Like, I don't even know.
Denver Broncos. What do we got from the Broncos? Did not pick until round 3. Jonah Coleman was their second pick of the draft, early round 4 selection. They go offensive tackle in round 4 as well. They add move tight end Justin Jolie in round 5. They add 3 receivers as UDFAs. I am curious how you feel about RJ Harvey. Is it just like so over for RJ Harvey for Dynasty, or do you think he can survive this and like him and Coleman can be a good backfield together like next year and beyond?
I don't think it's over for Harvey. I liked Harvey's tape better than Coleman's. I thought Harvey offers more at the NFL level. And I think as bad as his rookie season was, there were so many moments that I liked about Harvey down the stretch. His ability in the passing game, his contact balance in the passing game, the burst, the strength that he displayed. He has to become a better runner, and he has to become a better runner specifically in the Sean Payton scheme, like from a processing standpoint. But look at the development of some of those types of players over the years. Like Swift was always somebody like that. And then he got into a clear-cut position where he could figure out what the offense was asking of him. And he became a really good processor and a good runner last year with the Bears. So I'll always bet on those traits over someone with Coleman's traits personally.
All right. Moving on to the Raiders. We've got no wide receiver pick until round 6, which really did shock me. It's Malik Benson out of Oregon. He had a pretty brutal production profile. He's a good athlete.
I like him, yeah.
Projects as an outside receiver. You like Malik Benson?
As a sleeper, yeah.
He, to me, just
thought he moved well on tape.
He feels similar to the guys that they have had in terms of
That's true, too.
Tucker and Naylor
Tuckers of the world, yeah. I mean, it's not a great bet for fantasy, so.
Yeah.
by any means.
Round 3 center. I would have loved to see more investment in the line. How are you feeling about the Raiders line?
I was surprised with Zune. I don't know what they obviously don't view him as a center, and he didn't play center, by the way. Oh, he did, but he played a little bit. He played outside at tackle. The idea is like he doesn't have a skill set to play tackle, which may be the case. I don't know. Obviously, I don't really know where they view him. They just signed Linderbaum, so they either view him as a guard or a tackle. They obviously don't view him as a center, even though most people projected that's where he'd play at the NFL level before the draft. So we'll see on Zune. I liked Zune a lot, but I liked him as a center. So I don't know. You're right, though. They did not do enough on the offensive line in general. This team could have another brutal all line again. I look more at the Raiders and I'm like, with the Mendoza thing, it's like they didn't add him any real receiving talent. They don't really have a great line. What's to get excited about with Mendoza?
How do you feel then about Ashton Jeanty for this year?
I loved him before the draft for fantasy for redraft, and I'm getting lower and lower with him on my ranks for redraft because I did love him, and I think it's gonna get a little better on the line, and the situation's better with Kubiak, but I don't want to get too excited about a team that's probably going to be bad on offense.
Okay, how about like then Jeanty or Love, Jeanty or Achane? We're also worried about their offenses.
True, that's a good comp there. Jeanty or Love or Jeanty and Achane. As of now, I don't know. I'm going to need to marinate more on those to do any of those kind of rankings right now.
Yeah. So yeah, the Raiders mostly addressed defense after Mendoza. They did go center, maybe guard or whatever, round 3. Mike Washington, round 4, running back. And I do think Kubiak wants to use 2 running backs. They also added Roman Himby, so former teammate of Mendoza, UDFA running back Roman Himby ends up with the Raiders, and then they get the round 6 receiver as well. So interesting draft there. I thought that they would add more pass catcher. I guess it's just Brock Bowers to the moon is what the chat's saying. I think that makes some sense. Probably going to have a massive target share. Buffalo Bills are next. They went offensive tackle in round 4, offensive guard in round 7. Wide receiver Skylar Bell picked in round 4 as well. They've talked about him as a slot receiver who can move in and out of the slot, win with the ball in his hands. Other than that, went all defense. UDFAs. So this is the Joe Brady experience full on here. Going to be interesting to see what it looks like. They added a fullback, another running back, Desmond Reed. He was on some draft boards. They added 2 receivers. And then I think you'll like this one. Jermaine Burton is going to participate in Bills rookie minicamp, which is interesting to me.
I do not like that one.
Why not? You don't think Jermaine Burton could produce if he gets his act together?
No.
Wow.
Not at all.
Okay.
I don't like the Bills fantasy offense the way that others do. Others are like, ooh, new receiver for Josh Allen. This must be great.
Right.
This is a good quarterback. I'm like, no, I watched too much of this scheme, and this scheme is just not using the receivers at all.
It was more about shouting out this prospect that was interesting to us than
being Burden?
Being about the Bills specifically.
Oh, no, he's done, man. He's done.
Okay.
Done, dude. He's done. He had such a good opportunity in Cincy, and he did nothing with it. That's some of these guys just don't want to make it.
Okay.
Now I sound like a boomer.
I was going to say, I don't know the guy. I'm not going to say that. Like, he was 21 years old or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I mean, the guy had all-field concerns coming into the NFL, all-field concerns in the NFL, sleeping during meetings. When does this end up working out? What examples do we have of this ever working out?
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. Miami Dolphins, Caden Proctor, pick 12, boost for the run game.
Love that.
Guard in round 6. They go Caleb Douglas, big-bodied athletic receiver. There's a funny quote on them drafting a bunch of big guys and just saying that I can't remember exactly what the GM said, but he's like, "This is the way that we want our football team to look." Just that, I don't know, they're gonna scare the other team before the game starts. You know what I mean? Like high school, where it's like, "Damn, that team's big." I don't know if that's the way it's gonna work. I think everybody knows that you're the Dolphins. You have no money and no talent. Sorry. So Caleb Douglas, big receiver, athletic receiver, maybe will contribute. I haven't gotten to turn on the film yet for Caleb Douglas. They actually drafted him ahead of Chris Bell, another big receiver, big physically dominant guy. They drafted a blocking tight end in round 3 as well. Kevin Coleman Jr., maybe a return type, a slot type in round 5. So that's 3 receivers from round 3 to 5. They drafted a round 5 depth tight end out of Mississippi State. So 2 tight ends picked as well. No running backs picked. They did sign 2 UDFAs. Le'Veon Moss was on some draft boards. He ends up starting his career in Miami potentially. But that's all interesting to me that they did add some receivers, but not with early picks. They went offensive line early, and you really like the potential for Proctor to impact things here. And then they got some blocking with the tight ends, like invested a round 3 pick into that. Got some big bodied receivers. To me, it just feels like a team that's going to really try to lean on the run game. And so it's going to be Achane. There's going to be some design stuff to Malik Washington too. But it also could be somebody like Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon maybe being a lot more meaningful than we might expect. I don't know how well it's going to work, how much they're going to actually be able to run if they're losing by 20 points or whatever. But this is just, I don't know. It's such an interesting offense because going into the draft felt like the most wide open offense in terms of touches available. And then what did they do? They drafted a receiver who's coming off a torn ACL. They drafted another receiver who's never been like a target guy. And that's it. They drafted a tight end around 5 that could be a decent pass catcher. Greg Dulcich is the top tight end on this roster on the depth chart, where it's like, what is this going to be?
Yeah, and it's Slowick's offense, which you've seen in the past work at times, like in Houston with heavy play action, deep shots off of it, which I do think like makes sense based on what we saw from Malik Willis with LaFleur in Green Bay. Just like who's going to be that, who fits that on this from the skill position players. It's hard to find different guys here. So yeah, it looks like an offense to avoid to me. Though Achane, I don't want to get caught in the trap of being like, I'm avoiding this offense entirely, and then I don't consider Achane, who I still think can be super productive for fantasy in this offense because they've only gotten better on the O-line, and their run blocking took such a massive leap last year.
I think Ollie Gordon is a really good buy.
Okay.
I mean, like he's somebody who has the size and the team liked him a lot last year, and he's shown that he can like handle 3-down work. And so I think he could be involved in a split. And we saw that at times last year where he was getting the short yardage work over Achane, different coaching staff and everything. But they were like getting him in there for that specifically. And I thought he was doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And what if Achane does get hurt or something? If this is a lost season, I think it's pretty realistic. We could see some kind of like 3-down role for Ollie Gordon. And well, we're not all that excited about the Dolphins. If they're decent run blocking, like that might be something. That might be something for fantasy. I don't know. He's free. I like Malik Washington too. I don't know if they're actually going to expand his role, but I think there's a chance that he's clearly the most prioritized receiver, him and Achane, out of the gate. And so that's interesting to me because
I'll always be team Malik Washington, so I'm in on this bet.
He's also free. New England Patriots. We're waiting to see on AJ Brown. Seems like an inevitability to the Patriots or whatever, but maybe it's to the Raiders. I don't know how this is going to go down, but it seems like everybody thinks he's going here. As far as what they did in the draft, they drafted a like developmental tackle, if I'm understanding this right, a pass protection kind of player. Maybe he moves to left tackle, Will Campbell moves to guard or something like that. Does that all sound about right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it'll play out.
Okay, and they got Raritan, also kind of a developmental player in round 3, a round 6 tackle, a quarterback in round 7 out of Texas Tech, and then a running back in round 7, Jam Miller out of Alabama. UDFAs, they added 4 receivers. They added Miles Montgomery, a running back out of UCF that some people like, could push Jam Miller for that spot.
Interesting.
Yeah, so not a whole lot added to the offense, really. So we'll see if A.J. Brown comes, but if he doesn't, then I think some of these players are going to be really interesting. And if he does, I don't really know how that's going to go down. You and I have talked about like maybe Kyle Williams stays in this and plays like the Stephon Diggs role. They've talked about that they think Kayshon Boutte can move inside a lot more than he has in the past. So it could be something like Dobbs, Boutte, and HAB with Williams mixing in with Boutte some. Matt Collins is probably going to play, right? Like at least some. I don't know. They seem to like him. They like Pop Douglas. I just don't know, man. It's a lot of players if AJ Brown is there at the wide receiver position. The Jets added a lot. Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper Jr. They drafted a quarterback in round 4. They drafted a guard in round 6. And most importantly, for Beyond the Box Score listeners, they added Chip Trainium. UDFA, favorite of the program here. Shout out to Sigma Bloom. Chip Trainium, linebacker converted to running back. They added another running back as well, and 2 wide receivers. Here's the depth chart. We've got kind of a lot in terms of pass catchers between Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, Cooper Jr., Sadiq, and Mason Taylor. So can this talented offensive line stay healthy and keep Geno Smith upright to facilitate all this production? Breece Hall as well. It's going to be interesting. I didn't know Jelani Woods was on this roster.
Also, isn't their coordinator Frank Reich?
Yeah, that's right.
That has not worked out great.
Yeah. No, it hasn't. I will say that there's been a lot of tight ends and slot receivers who have had decent production under Frank Reich.
Okay.
So maybe that
makes sense with where they made their draft picks. Yeah.
I don't feel great about it.
No.
New York Jets, we just covered Cleveland Browns. So they go tackle at pick 9, boost for the run game. A lot of people are saying the Cleveland Browns killed this draft. You feel good about it?
They did a great job in this draft.
Unless you're a Harold Fannin truther. I don't really know what's going to happen with the Fannin stuff. I think it's more likely than anything else that just Boston doesn't play very much as a rookie. Like, to me, it makes the most sense that he would lose out here if you're looking at Concepcion, Boston, and Fannin. I don't know. It would be really a surprise to me that they would not play Fannin just so that they can get Boston on the field. I also think, I'm curious what you think. Do you think Boston's going to play ahead of Cedric Tillman if Tillman's healthy?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Huh. That's interesting. I would expect Tillman to just be the X receiver there with Concepcion and Judy working off of him, but maybe that is Boston.
I feel like Boston's a better player than him. But maybe not yet, but a better prospect.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's fair to say he's a better prospect, yeah. But I don't know if he is better right now. What comes to mind for me is
he's been handpicked by Mungan. Like, somebody made a point in the chat. I think it's correct. Like, they chose Boston, this new regime.
Yeah, that's fair. It does concern me that
I still don't think it will matter, though, by the way, for fantasy. Sorry to cut you off.
You're good. Against the higher levels of competition, I really did think Boston kind of struggled at times, and that bothers me a little bit. We'll see.
Unless they go to Deshaun, and even that, I don't really feel like, if I made this point before, I have no
Taylor Green
passing game. Even that, Taylor Green, I like for Taylor Green if he starts, but no one else in the passing game. I'm very, very, very out on Shedeur Sanders. If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. That was horrific year one from him, and I thought his Colorado tape was unbelievably overrated.
The step chart is showing me Shedeur Sanders starting quarterback, man.
Yeah, who knows what they're going to go with. I think it will be Deshaun, though. I think Munkin will just be like, I want to win, man. I want to keep my job. Deshaun can actually somewhat play this position. None of these other guys can. Like, Sanders and Gabriel were so bad last year at playing quarterback. They didn't see well, Gabriel could see it a little bit better, but what's actually developing, but his arm is just so bad. But Sanders couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Let's talk about the rest of the depth chart, because that is much more fun than talking about the quarterback position. So they go tackle at pick 9, then they go Casey Concepcion in round 1, pick 23, then Denzel Boston early round 2, then a round 3 tackle, a round 5 center. And so that's 3 offensive line picks, plus Carson Ryan, tight end in late round 7, who's a really good blocker. They also had Taylor Green around 6, and Joe Royer is a more of a receiving tight end. They added in round 5. So some interesting players there. A lot of sicko favorites. Like, a lot of people like Joe Royer in the deep Twitter streets and everything. You'll hear tales of Joe Royer. UDFA's had 2 running backs and 3 tiny receivers, each of them 5'8" or shorter. Don't know. I don't think those guys are going to make the depth chart. What a depth chart, man. Rocket Sanders on this depth chart. Tylan Wallace. Truly run by sickos. Shout out to the Browns analytics department here.
All the deep cuts.
Pittsburgh Steelers. When you brought up Steelers are just winning, 9 games again, I was like, well, this is the Mike Tomlin era is over, so maybe we'll see something a little bit different from the Steelers here. Mike McCarthy era has begun.
The thing is, they're still good in the trenches, though. That's like why they win games. They're only getting better there. They've continuously upgraded their O-line, but it will be tough with this quarterback play. I don't know what's going to happen there. Yeah. Oh, I forgot they have Rudolph too still. Rudolph is at least a little bit more competent than Howard and Aller would be.
Yeah. So Mason Rudolph is the presumed starter for Pittsburgh as it currently stands. They, in the draft, added a round 1 tackle. I think that Dan Schneier was quoted as saying he could develop into the best lineman in the class. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You really like this guy. Is it?
Love him.
Who am I looking at here? Is it this guy, Max?
Iheanacho, yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't know how to pronounce his name though. So
okay, so round 1 tackle to the Steelers. Jeremy Bernard in round 2, I think will be their starting slot receiver.
Sure.
Unless it's Eli Heidenreich, of course. Drew Alar, round 3 quarterback with crazy arm and just traits. From what I hear, don't know how good he is at actually playing the position. Maybe we'll see this year. Late round 3, they draft another tackle. Then they draft this Nowakowski guy from Indiana. You might remember from the playoff run, number 37. Yeah. He was like a fullback tight end hybrid. And then he was I think he was picked in round 4, round 5. And then Eli Heidenreich in round 7. Finally, our wait was over. I was tortured during the draft. Just like, when is it going to be time for Heidenreich, man?
Right.
Finally, round 7. Okay. What do we got? I see now. Are you running out of battery power, Dan? Do you want me to just run through the rest of these?
I'm very low, but it's still holding up somehow. Okay. I've never expected this to work out for this amount of time.
We'll see how far we'll go rapid fire. We'll see how far we can make it. Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to just get rid of the depth charts, make this a little bit easier and quicker. I'll stay focused on the notes. Cincinnati Bengals, round 4 center, round 4 Colby Young, wide receiver, another interior offensive lineman around 6, and then Jack Andres is the round 7 tight end. I thought could have gone a lot earlier than that. Young tight end.
You liked him, yeah.
I did. I liked him a lot. And so they also signed 2 more tight ends as undrafted free agents, one of which is named Jack Dingle. So this might not be a good sign for Eric All. Just wanted to mention that to the sickos. Like if you're worried about your roster spots as you add all these rookies, it might be okay to let Eric All go. I'm trying to hold on as long as I can to see how we make it through the next couple of months with his health. We get good reports, good coach speak. They also added 2 running backs as UDFA, so that's something to keep an eye on if Taj Brooks doesn't, capitalize. Because right now the running back 2 spots is still kind of open. Maybe it'll just be P. Ryan. But yeah, not a whole lot of offense added here. So I think it's just going to be same old Bengals, and maybe Colby Young steps into a more meaningful role than we expect. Baltimore Ravens, guard in round 1, pass protection guard. Then Jacoby Lane, big-bodied jump ball winner kind of project, I think, in round 3 at receiver. Then Elijah Surratt in round 4. We're pretty excited about his fit. The coach speak has been pretty good. Think he might get on the field ahead of Lane in year 1. Tight end Hibner. I need to look into this guy. Hibner, blocker and receiver, picked in late round 4. And so there's some, they had 2 tight ends walk this offseason. So there's definitely some opportunity for him. They also drafted a tight end fullback hybrid, Josh Cuevas, in round 5. Adam Randall, pass catching running back, added in round 5. And then another guard in round 7. This is where Diego Pavia ended up. UDFA Pavia is going to have a chance to make it with the Ravens as a backup QB. But yeah, I think
tryout, I think.
Yeah. That's, I think, kind of just the same Ravens here, but with a different offensive coordinator. I'm intrigued to see how things change. I like that they addressed the offensive line. Do you think that they did enough? Do you feel pretty good about taking shots on the Ravens?
I do. I feel good about where they're at with the line. I think we're just going to get a healthier Lamar season. So there's upside baked into that too, because it's a recency bias thing.
Indianapolis Colts drafted a guard in round 4. They drafted a running back and a receiver in round 7, Seth McGowan and Deion Burks.
I like McGowan as a sleeper.
Yeah, and I think it's noteworthy he got drafted. Otherwise, all defense for the Colts in this draft.
Right.
So
they had to.
Feeling good about JT and everything here in terms of the big pieces, as long as Daniel Jones can be competent, basically. Then I think we might get 80-90% of last year's fantasy production, which was really, really good there at the beginning of the year. Jaguars.
I wonder on that one. I wonder a little bit more.
I wonder too.
Yeah. I also just think their defense is going to be so freaking bad. Even drafting, they drafted some guys, and I like CJ Allen a lot, but they traded their number 1 draft capital pick. They didn't really add studs on defense. Their defense looks horrific on paper. The Colts.
Yeah. Jaguars, 25-year-old blocking tight end in round 2.
Everyone hates this pick.
Was their first pick of the draft, so that was a surprise. They draft a round 3 guard. They draft Tanner Koziol.
Grignon was such a good pick.
Cool. So you want to talk about him? I don't know anything about him.
I thought he was the best power gap blocker besides Rutledge at the guard position in this class for just that scheme. If you're going to run power gap, And they don't run exclusively power gap, but you're damn right Liam Cohn knows how to design his power gap plays really well. And so you got him. You have Kirkshire. Is it Kirkshire? Is that how you pronounce his name, the tight end?
I do not know.
Something like that. Put them both on your offensive line. Put them both on a line of scrimmage. Open up stuff for Tootin. Open up stuff for Rodriguez. Let's let it rip.
I'm just enjoying that we've got people in the chat telling us about these like deep, like round 4, 5, 6 picks or whatever, where I'm like, I didn't get to this tight end. He was tight end 15 on my board or whatever. So like, I got to get to him. And they're like, here, let me tell you about it. The people in our comments are just great, man.
Borkerker.
Yes, of course. Borkerker. Okay. So we're talking about the Jaguars.
Sure.
I think that's right. Actually. Yeah. Blocking tight end in round 2 for the Jaguars, then a guard in round 3, then a pass catching red zone threat in round 5 at tight end, and then 2 receivers who like have some size but brutal production profiles in round 6. The Jaguars were talking about how much they like these guys as blockers. If that tells you anything. So this all feels great for Bashal Tootin is kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
And as far as UDFAs, they brought in 1 running back, Jamari Taylor, and they brought in 5 receivers. Maybe there's more, but that's all I've seen so far in terms of skill position.
Wild team.
So yeah, seems like they're really investing in the run game, and they like what they have in their receiver room. So yeah, Parker Washington, I think, feels pretty good. That last year's breakout could maybe continue. And yeah, I think that this team is going to try to build on what they did in the run game last year. I feel pretty good about that.
I feel good about their offense. I think their defense has to take a step back.
Yeah.
And they lost Devin Lloyd, and this was the class to replace Lloyd. There's so many stud linebackers, and they took Borkercher over. Like, you could have traded up.
Borkercher in the chat for we got pronunciation.
I think it's Borkercher.
Oh, this is wrong. All right.
I don't know.
Houston Texans round 1 guard, the best butt kicker in the class per Dan Schneier, boosted the run game. Rutledge
power gap,
Marlon Klein, man, you love this Texans draft, don't you?
They got a lot of my guys. Those were both my guys.
Marlon Klein, round 2, tight end, late round 2 pick.
To be fair, I like Marlon Klein in like round 4. I can't kind of believe they did this, but that's probably a good sign.
Round 4 guard as well, and a round 6 wide receiver. Lewis Bond looks like a slot receiver out of Boston College, decent production, 5-year player. Doubt that he's going to really matter much for fantasy. So yeah, feels good for Montgomery. And if he were to go down, then Woody Marks in the same situation as last year where he was pretty productive, but maybe with a better offensive line. Hopefully this is good for our boy CJ Stroud.
I don't know how I'm going to not draft Montgomery. I'm going to struggle to not draft him. This is just my kind of guy. It feels so perfect for him, and he's going to be so cheap. Like, there's no way his price will rise, right?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about Montgomery anymore. Nobody gives a crap.
No.
I do. I care. I think he's really talented, and he's in a really good spot. And also adding Katie McDonald, which I thought was the best pick around 2 for their defensive line. They may just be the best defense besides the Seahawks by far in football. And then it's just like such a game script for Montgomery. I don't know, man. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Tennessee Titans, Carnell Tate, and then no offensive picks until round 5.
Yeah.
They get a round 5 guard. They get Nicholas Singleton around 5. They get a round 6 center, and like an H-back move tight end round 7. So not a whole lot there added to the offense, and that's why I was kind of intrigued by Pollard. And Spears is like, they're probably still 2 of the best ancillary weapons in the passing game. Even with Wan'Dale brought in, like, I think that we're going to still see Spears matter. I could be wrong on that.
No, you're not.
Okay, heck yeah. I love Spears. So I think Tate has a decent chance to carve out a pretty like maybe even more of a target share than he had in college. That could be really interesting. I think Gunnar Helm, it still feels pretty good about going into 2026, going into year 2 for Gunnar Helm. I was curious if they might be a tight end landing spot because they moved on from Chig Okonkwo. Albert O is who came to mind for me there, dude. I think it's time to stop the podcast. Unfortunately, it is. We have covered every AFC teams. So we are at the end of these depth charts. Dan's computer made it to the end. Just to wrap, there were 4 teams that focus entirely on defense. I'm curious if this matters to you, if any of these teams stand out. It was the Colts, the Bengals, the Bills, and the Chiefs. Among the AFC teams, those are the ones that went as much defense as possible, or at least early, they were all in on defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts had to do it. That's the one that stands out to me. They had no other option.
Yeah. And like the Chiefs, I think that's good for Kenneth Walker potentially,
Oh, yeah, from that sense. Yep.
The Bills, like James Cook, maybe that's a good thing. Bengals, yeah, we already hit on it. Like Chase Brown just feels like one of the biggest winners from this class or from this draft. All right, good stuff, man. No, I mean, 2.5 hours, that's nothing. That's light work for Beyond the Box Score on a Tuesday. We got questions from the
ranking QBs last year.
Question from the chat. What's the content plan the rest of the week? Tomorrow, I think I'm going to get you a couple more player profiles on some of the, like I got Omar Cooper Jr. up on Monday, like probably Stribling, maybe Malachi Fields, Antonio Williams, some of those players, just go into a little bit more detail in terms of it's easy to like look at the film, look at the fit, get excited about it, but it's like what, not just relative to like this year's rookie class, but like relative to NFL history and stuff. Like what does this prospect look like? What type of successes have there been from this range in the draft for this archetype of player, stuff like that. Like I think all that's really interesting. So I want to spend a little bit more time thinking specifically about these guys. So like I'm doing a startup draft right now with the Beyond the Box Score listeners. Actually, they made their own league and invited me to play in that. And so like, where does Antonio Williams fit into that? You know what I mean? Like Antonio Williams, I like relative to this class because there's not much else to like. But like, where does he fit relative to like the rest of the league as he enters the NFL? How good do we feel about that type of a bet? So I think that's what I'm going to get up on Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll be back to do the players who saw their fantasy value drop, the RJ Harveys of the world. How concerned are we? What does this look like going forward? Where do you rank them for this year? We're going to talk about some of the toughest players to rank for 2026 fantasy football. And I think that, we're going to do the NFC side of this, just going through the depth charts for the NFC. So aiming to keep that one under 2 hours. I think that's realistic for Thursday. But yeah, we'll be back live on Thursday, and then Friday doing a positional overview with my buddy Ryan Heath to kind of get the positional overview season started. Do you think you'll join us on Friday, Dan?
I have to see. I have one other thing I have to move scheduling wise.
The people love a Beyond the Box Score crossover episode, though. You know, we get you, me, Dan.
I'm going to try to.
You, me, and Ryan together. That's a fun time.
We also have an extra thing going on, just on the regular fantasy football today.
Oh channel. Yeah,
Jacob and I are going to be doing our classic post draft show with Adam on Thursday. Excited for that one.
Yeah, the gyms, the fantasy football rookie gyms. It's been a super fruitful episode in the past. So it started with Puka Nacua, like last year was Bill.
Christian Watson the year before that too.
Yeah. So that's a good one. This class is going to be really tough.
Oh yeah,
it is, like, because it's not a dynasty show, you know. Like it's like for this year.
Right.
But I think that there's some interesting ones, like. For sure. I need to think about that more. Yeah, good call out. That's on Thursday on the actual FFT feed. So y'all want to, I think that's right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we're planning to shift to the morning going forward, like Ryan's episode on Fridays in the morning for sure. And then I think going forward from that point on, our live streams will be in the morning.
It'll be at 10 a.m. moving forward. Yeah. Eastern time.
Okay, cool. Cool beans. Thanks everybody for being here.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Please do us a favor, hit the like button right now. Help support the show. Leave comments and likes every time you watch or listen. Go back, hit YouTube. Takes you 3 seconds and hit like. It really helps us grow the show. Please subscribe and tell people to subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you Thursday.